Let's try something different here. Let me see if I can. All right. Everyone, as you're filing in, we are working through some audio issues just for us for the second. Bear with us. We've got Congressman Hank Johnson from the 4th Congressional District in Georgia who's going to give us an update of what's happening on the ground. Bear with us. We're trying to fix his audio, so we're going to be able to get everybody going in just a sec. Let's see here. As we always do, go to the chat, give us your city and your state that you're joining us from tonight. Really appreciate everybody being here with us. Okay. Congressman, if you need to, let's try to call him. Okay, he logged back in. All right, cool. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get this. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I know there was a little bit of a technical difficulty at the beginning. Excited to have you all here. We have a dynamic group of speakers tonight. We have folks who are running at the municipal level, the federal level, the state level, all in between. We've got some really dynamic folks who are doing some great work around the country. We've also got a couple of dynamic speakers who are going to be joining us to talk about what's happening in their states on the ground. As always, we appreciate you, Black men, for coming here tonight. This is an open space. We are asking all Black men, whether you're Democrat, Republican, Democratic Socialist, Working Families Party, Independent, wherever you are running in the country, we want to make sure that other Black men know about you. Now, I don't always agree with, and we had a brother on just a couple weeks ago from the Heritage Foundation who, while I think he's doing some dynamic and interesting work, I didn't necessarily agree with some of the things that he was discussing. But we want to present all of the options here. We are not a monolith. I like Marvel. Dr. OK Enya might like DC comics, that is. And so we want to make sure that we as brothers are not pushing one narrative. Now, as my pastor says at Dr. Howard John Leslie at Alfred Street Baptist Church, he can't tell me who to vote for, but I know who he's telling me who he's voting for. I know who I might support, but that may not be the same as you. What I'm doing is judging the things that we can find commonality and shared bonds with this evening, and then build from there. So the opportunity tonight for all of you is you're putting into the chat where you're from, your city and your state. We appreciate you jumping on and really joining in this conversation. As I said, we are here every single Sunday to have this conversation continued. And we are trying to make sure through this election cycle, not only are we talking about elections, but tonight we're also going to hear about Black men's mental health. We have Dr. OK Enya. We're going to be hearing about work that's happening in the financial space to really engage companies and hold them accountable for the attack on voting rights that's happening right now. We are going to have our state captains. We've got Nicholas Oughton and Corey Mosley in South Carolina and Alabama, respectively, who are going to hop on and tell you what's happening on the ground. We're going to hopefully hear from my son, who will hop on and share with us from his experience. And then we have a slew of candidates. In Maryland's 5th Congressional District, I think we've got like 12 brothers running in that particular race. We also have a couple of brothers who recently won their elections, Dr. Kelly Esty in the Georgia 8th Congressional District, and others who will be on this evening. But first, I think we got our audio fixed. We are going to bring up Congressman Hank Johnson from the 4th Congressional District in Georgia. Congressman, can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I can, but unfortunately, I missed the instructions and what you want me to do.
No, you're perfect. Tonight, we want to really hear from you. We know Georgia is about to go back into a special session. You've got brothers from all around. You have William Whitaker from Oklahoma City. You've got Alonzo Montgomery from Decatur, Georgia, and around Joe Simmons from New Orleans. Why is this important about what's about to happen in Georgia? We saw what happened after Louisiana versus Calais, specifically what happened to some of your colleagues, Cleo Fields and Troy Carter. It then moved over to Alabama. We know Shamari Figures in the recent Supreme Court case, what happened over there. We're watching what's going on in Mississippi. But Georgia is next, right after Tennessee. What should brothers who are listening tonight take back to their family and friends and how should they be prepared for what may happen in Georgia? What are you hearing on the ground?
Yeah, so Georgia, just like other southern states, took a cue from the Supreme Court when it eviscerated the Voting Rights Act, Section 2, as it had already done with Section 5. And so that leaves Black folks with no ability to go to court when their voting rights are being infringed upon. And of course, before the Voting Rights Act was passed in 1965, Black folks around the South and in places across the country did not have the right to vote, or there were so many restrictions put in place, like how many jelly beans are in a jelly bar or in a jar. How many jelly beans are how many black jelly beans are in a jar, for instance, and poll taxes and other devices that were used, grandfather clauses to exclude Black people from being able to vote, property owners, those kinds of restrictions. And so the Voting Rights Act outlawed those kinds of devices that kept Blacks from voting. And of course, after the Voting Rights Act was passed and Black folks began to vote, we started to elect the people of our choice to represent us. And they turned out to mostly be Black folks, although, on occasion we've elected white people from majority Black areas like Memphis, Memphis comes to mind. Voted in a white person to represent that district. That's what the Black folks did. And so the bottom line is Black folks have been able to elect the representatives of their choice, or at least have the opportunity to do so throughout the South because of the Voting Rights Act. And when that act was eviscerated by the United States Supreme Court, southern states, including Georgia, called special sessions to start redistricting so that they could cut districts so as to unpack Black communities and to crack Black communities, put those Black voters in several districts and dilute their voting power, thus depriving those communities of the opportunity to elect the candidates of their choice. And so we've seen that play out in Texas, Louisiana, South Carolina threatened to do it, but they did not. Florida, uh, Alabama, these southern states, and now, of course, Georgia joined. Now, the problem that the racists have here in Georgia is that our primaries took place on May 19th. And so, they cannot stop us from running under the maps that we currently run under. And so we have 5 majority Democratic districts in Georgia that are represented by 5 Black people, because those districts, with the exception of one, all have about 48, 49% Black populations in those districts. And so, but when Georgia goes back to redistrict, they're going to try to whittle that number down and try to get rid of as many Black representatives as they can. So that special session is set for, I think, June the 16th.
Mhm.
And that special session is called for the purpose of the General Assembly redrawing districts, both congressional districts and state House and Senate districts. And so they're going to try to eliminate as many Democrats, i.e. Black representatives, as they can. And this is going to hurt. That change would go into effect in the 2028 elections. And so that's why it's important that in the 2026 elections, we have an opportunity, if we can get if we can flip 10 seats in the state House, we can retake the state House. And if we elect a Democrat, if we elect Keisha Lance Bottoms as the governor, she'll be able to help lead the effort to restore whatever is taken away from us on June the 16th. So that's where we are now. There's no guarantees that Republicans will be able to accomplish redistricting because they're very aware of the fact that the state population is so vast with Black and brown voters, and it continues to grow, that in order to unpack and crack votes and put those Black voters in other districts, it hurts the white Republicans who represent those districts.
And so, Congressman, I'm sorry to interrupt. And so, as I have family that lives in Conyers that's about to go out and vote, how do we make sure that they don't feel that their vote's going to be disenfranchised, or they feel it won't matter because of what they're seeing happen in other states? So how do we reassure them that your vote still will be counted? This isn't for 2026. There's a conversation that's going to be had for 2028, but we still need you to show up and vote. And so if I heard you correctly, the special session, because what we saw in Alabama and Louisiana, they stopped elections right then and there, or they stopped races that were going on. Early voting had already started, vote by mail ballots were out, and they disregarded those. So that's not going to happen in Georgia, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
And so your vote counts. We must elect a Democratic governor, and we have a chance to do that with Keisha Lance Bottoms. And if Blacks across the state go out, we may be able to flip 10 House seats, 10 Georgia House seats. Chances of flipping the Senate are not that great, but we have a good chance of being able to flip the House in Georgia, the Georgia House of Representatives. So people need to get out and vote. You need to understand that, hey, you may lose, but you may win. You can't win unless you vote. But if you don't vote, we all lose. And
well,
so
I also wanted to bring
that.
a Centurion of the Guard here who I know who will protect you on January 6th, and other members of the Capitol. We've got Harry Dunn, former Capitol Police officer candidate who's running for Congress in Maryland's 5th. Wanted to bring him into this conversation, Congressman, as you're thinking about how we're protecting democracy. How do we do that in these turbulent times? We know what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz right now, and gas prices are through the roof. And then, Harry, I want you to come in after the congressman. How do we let family and friends know who may be going to the local ShopRite in Marietta, that may be in Savannah, or maybe in Upper Marlboro and Prince George's County? How do we let them know that, yeah, things are crazy right now, but by participating in this election, things are going to get better? Like, how do we share that with our community?
Yeah, I mean, we just simply have to talk with our relatives, neighbors, and friends and coworkers. And we've got to be positive about the fact that our vote has put us where we are today. If we weren't voting, we would not have any representatives. We would not have economic development in our communities. We would not have jobs. We would be unequal citizens. And so, this vote has helped to level the playing field. There's a whole lot more leveling that needs to take place, which means there's a whole lot more voting that needs to take place. But we have to convince them that politics opens up economics. And when you're politically strong, you have a great opportunity to be economically strong as well. And at this point, I've done enough talking. I'll turn it over to my brother, Officer Harry Dunn. It's good to be on the line with you, sir.
Hey, Congressman, good to hear from you. Great remarks. I agree 100%. Also, first, let me say, all the brothers, good to see you all. Thank you for showing up, tapping in, because it's going to take all of us. And, like specifically in my race, it's a lot of us running. It's a lot of qualified, good brothers in this race too. And I look around the country, and it's unfortunate that only one of us will get to win when we have so many whack jobs in Congress. And you know, Congressman, I know them. I've seen them. You work with them. I've protected them. But you know, I will say this: if our votes didn't matter, they wouldn't work so hard to be trying to take it away from us. And one of the things I struggle with, because a lot of people does say my vote doesn't matter. My vote doesn't matter. How can we tell them that it does when the Supreme Court literally is just taking votes and representation from Black people away? What's a good message with that? I'm asking that as a question. I would love to hear some people's responses to it, because how do you actually validate that and say, yeah, you know what, your vote does matter? When people are voting, look at the 2024 election to support Kamala Harris, and you know, we still get stuck with Donald Trump and other Republicans that are doing everything. So I understand the frustration. I get it sometimes too. And I know we can gaslight, we gaslight people often, and we'll sit here and say, you know, hey guys, let's just vote and everything's going to be okay. No, I think we need to be very honest with people. No, voting gives us a chance. Fighting gives us a chance. It doesn't always guarantee that we're going to turn out on top. However, I do believe that it is more of us that want better, that want equality, that want fairness, that want equity. I believe it's more of us than it is them. So I think that we need to try to convince people to stay engaged. You know, hell, I'll share a moment of vulnerability with you all, brothers, right now. Earlier this week, you know, I questioned everything that I was doing, and I got overwhelmed. It's been 5.5 years. Now, obviously, I'm running now, but it's been 5.5 years since, you know, I guess my story became relevant. Uh, and it's just been a lot of frustrating and disappointment time after time. I woke up, you know, Friday morning to the news that the Senate Republicans did not vote to block that slush fund, which I'm suing against to stop. And I just felt like, you know, as we're talking about Men's Mental Health Month too, I want to share with y'all that, you know, I struggled. It's a lot, but it's worth it. And you know what? Under no circumstances, the alternative is absolutely not better. So you got to realize why you're doing what you're doing, because it's so easy to say, I'm done with this. But you got to make sure that your strength, your reason, your why, and I'm just talking amongst other candidates too, make sure your why is that solid, because it's a lot of ways that you can just say, I'm done. But when you realize your why is what it is, it makes it harder to quit.
Brothers, and the chat is going off. You got some love, Congressman, for your speech that you did at the Coalition of Black Trade Unionists a couple of weeks ago. So thank you, Harry. Also, thank you for that vulnerability. I think Dr. OK Enya is going to speak to mental health and Black men in the Black community in a couple of minutes on in the programming. But I know I struggle with this. I mean, I felt it last summer. For those who've been on, I've heard it come up often where I go to the grocery store, and my daughter and I, early on, you know, she felt the need that she wanted to cross the street because the National Guard is still here. Now, I've gotten to know some of these folks. I know they're good people, but it's still an angst where you have someone with a gun in their hip walking as you're going to get groceries. Last question to you both, and I appreciate you jumping on, and Congressman, we're going to follow up just to have a one-on-one. But what do you say to that about to turn 18 to 24 to 30-year-old young Black man who may be going to a trade job, so that they're working as a shop steward, or they're in college, they're going to a 2-year degree, or they're trying to figure out their way in life? What do you say to them now about the importance of voting in this election?
Well,
Congressman? Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you know, it's the Supreme Court that has taken away our Voting Rights Act and our ability to prosecute cases under that act and gain relief for unfair voting practices. So we already see the clock. They're trying to turn back the clock. And so for these young people who may not know our history, I would just encourage them that we had people who fought and died in order for us to get this right to vote. This right to vote is what has enabled us to do as well as we are doing economically at this point. And of course, you can see that everybody's hurting, but when everybody catches a cold, Black folks catch pneumonia. And that's just the bottom line of things. That's been our history in this country. But this is our country. Our forefathers and foremothers built this country. We built this country. This is our country. And we can't let anybody take it away from us. And the way that we do that is by exercising that right to vote. The right to vote is like our ability to speak. When we vote, we speak. And when we speak, we elect people that represent us, who share our values, who are looking out for our communities, looking out for our people. And if you're not at the table, then you're on the menu. So I can't stress, how important it is to vote to young people. And if you don't know who you should vote for, trust me, I'm encouraging you to vote for Democrats, because Democrats share the values, hopes, and aspirations of Black people, more so than the Republicans, who value they are representative of the billionaires, the millionaires, and the people who are trying to keep you from getting yours. Those folk, although you want to be like them, they don't want you to be like them, because you're taking dollars out of their pocket. And so, if you want to accumulate some money and live well, you need to vote for Democrats. And that's my simple message. I would also encourage folks to get up out of your social media, get up off of your phone, and maybe start reading some books and reading some periodicals that are legitimate and truthful sources of information, and don't get hoodwinked by what you hear and see and read on social media.
I thought you were about to do the Denzel from X. Don't get hoodwinked, bamboozled, or run astray in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Harry, give us your thoughts. I know, Harry, you're coming back to talk as a candidate and talk a little bit more about your candidacy.
Yeah.
John has a question for you later, but how do you connect with that almost 18 to 24, 30-year-old young Black man that's living in Maryland right now?
I honestly don't think it just stops with the 18 to 24, even to 30. It's a lot of disenfranchised brothers out there that don't understand. And I think one thing that Black men all have in common is we don't like when things are unfair. And we have to convey to them that right now what they're trying to do is unfair. They're trying to give an unfair advantage to so many other people, and they're taking away opportunities for us. So just be very matter of fact about the situation. Explain to them, why do we have Donald Trump as president? Explain, you know what? Because a lot of people just thought that voting for Kamala wasn't the way. And instead we got this. And explain to them, it's not the lesser of two evils. You hear that a lot, especially within the Black men. They're talking about, the Democrats are the lesser of two evils. No, absolutely not. I reject that notion 100%. One side is absolutely evil. They don't care about, fair wages. They don't care about taxes. They don't care about health care. They don't care. So when you actually when the Obamacare ACA tax subsidies expired, the top 10 states that were affected were all Republican states. The top 10. So when you talk about, and Democrats were fighting harder than their constituents in other people's states were. It was surprising that, Congressman, that Marjorie Taylor Greene had a come into Jesus moment, and she was like one of the only Republicans that were saying we got to do this. But we have to understand that one party absolutely is evil, and they stand for that. So just be very truthful, very matter of fact, and express fairness. Because like I said, one thing that Black people, especially Black men, all can agree on, we want things fair.
I love it. Congressman Hank Johnson, Georgia's 4th Congressional District. Thank you for joining in. It was I thank you to your team and to you taking time out of your Sunday to join us. I'm going to follow back up with you. We'll chat later on this week. Harry, I know you're going to be coming back in later. Appreciate you both, brothers, who are fighting the hard fight.
Thank you.
Of course. Thank you, Congressman.
Thank you,
And
brother.
good afternoon to all the brothers out there as well.
There you go. I'm going to bring up OK Inya just for a second, but I wanted to spotlight all we have right now in the chat that joined us tonight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I think 10 brothers who are joining, who are running either in Congress. And so I'm going to try to see if I can do this really quick, but I'll do it before we start the candidate forums, so everybody can get a nice little picture of that. But brother OK Enya, we're not going to do the frat thing, although I love my frat. But my chapter brother and is a doctor. Don't want to take that title away. And Vince, you're on deck, man. So I know you're coming up right after Dr. OK Enya. Congressman Johnson surprised me, which was a good thing. Wanted to come to you to talk about Black men's mental health, and it's Men's Health Awareness Month here in June. I know we're streaming live on YouTube for those that are following there. For those that don't know the personal side of my story, but mental health is a topic that is near and dear to me, and the struggles that we all face with this on my personal side for my family and the loss of my loved one. How do brothers check on? I watched a video clip the other day. I think it's making its way around. There was a guy who's taking flying lessons. He's finishing off the last couple hours of his pilot's license, and he's talking about how he hit his instructor. They were doing a flight. The instructor was talking about how he was going to get his ring for his fiance and was all excited. A week later, he was gone because he took his life. Yeah. What do we need to do to change this conversation that doesn't, I'm a biggest culprit of this, of just saying, yeah, I'm fine, and moving on? How do we change that dynamic in that narrative, especially for Black men, to open up a little bit more, knowing that we've somewhat been socialized to be hard and not cry or not show emotions at times? Give us some perspectives and some thoughts here.
Sure. Yes. Thank you so much, first of all, Khalil, for your leadership and your advocacy. Look, so I'm going to start with my story as well, to kind of set the frame for this conversation, because yes, June is Men's Health Month and also Men's Mental Health Month. And I've been on panels on a weekly basis for the past several months, discussing mental health and emotional health and all of the factors that play into this very important issue. I actually first battled with depression and anxiety and trauma when I was in medical school. And back then I didn't know that I was depressed. It actually took a frat brother of mine who was trained in the field to recognize that something was off. But I didn't have a name for it. I didn't have language to describe or explain what I was feeling. And so that's part of the challenge is, when we live in a society that seemingly does not value emotional health, emotional intelligence, mental health, how do we destigmatize? How do we normalize talking about mental health, mental illness, etc.? It begins with us, with having these types of conversations, is to normalize and give language to what we are feeling. And so what I found as I have traveled the country, and for me, as I grew up, all I was told, or like the narrative was, that Jesus will fix it. Right. So yes, I'm a Christian, and yes, Jesus can fix it, but Jesus also made therapists and counselors and doctors, etc., to help you find a language and to support you in your journey. And so that was part of my own journey of going through depression, thankfully coming out of it with support, because I say all the time that you can't be your best self by yourself, that it takes community. And isolation is a killer. Like it, and so and I also share that because of my lived experiences over the past several years, I was very intentional, and I have the privilege of being able to afford to see a Black male psychologist regularly for my own self-care or self-maintenance regimen. And so as I am on panels and on podcasts, I am vulnerable and transparent about my own journey, what I grapple with, what I've struggled with racial microaggressions, with trauma, with betrayal, with rejection, anxiety, etc. And even more recently, after I became a father, and this isn't talked about often either is postpartum depression. So I earned my doctorate in health policy in 2023. My son, who is a Tyler now, he was born 6 weeks later. 5 days after my son was born, my mother-in-law suffered a stroke. Right. So it was just compounding this, navigating this joy and grief that drove me into depression again. And but the reason why I was able to further identify what was happening was because my body remembered how it was feeling when I first experienced the depression back in med school, and along with my therapist as well, he was able to help support my process of getting out of postpartum depression, to get to a place where I am healthy and thriving now. So um, it's I'm real big on how do we work with pastors, with the faith community, with civic organizations, with others, to create a narrative whereby we can normalize men seeking help, Black men seeking help, because it is rare for us to have safe, non-judgmental spaces as Black men to be able to show up and be and not be locked into this mode of performance or to do, right? So there is a thing around being able to just unmask, put the armor down, and just be. But but the systems that are in place um, are not able to see us for us, and so it's incumbent upon us to have these types of conversations, to be able to hold space for each other, for the talk therapy, to be able to be seen and heard and validated so that we can continue our healing journey to get to the place where we're not just surviving but thriving. And a few stats.
No, go for it. No, go for it. Go.
So, um, um, suicide rates for boys and men are about 4 times higher than for girls and women. Um, Black psychologists only make up 4% of the psychologists in the United States. Black psychiatrists only make up 2% of the psychiatrists in the United States. And so all of those factors are why, for me, based upon my training, my lived experience, I am adamant about naming my own self-care, self-maintenance, soul care regimen, which includes prayer, mindfulness meditation, journaling, breath work, yoga, uh, acupuncture, chiropractor, deep tissue massages. Those things that bring you joy or keep you grounded are those things that keep me healthy and safe uh, and grounded and regulated. And I found that when I'm able to share my own story, I give other brothers the permission to also be vulnerable enough to share their own story, because once you're able to actually get more clear about how your experiences from childhood and going forward impact and shape your relationships, um, it's about really talking about the benefits of therapy, which is also very important to articulate, because I know a lot of brothers, they wonder like how to find a therapist, what does therapy look like, um, what do I get out of it, and for me, I wouldn't be here being an author of my second book had I not been willing to do the inner work to be able to get to a place where I am vulnerable and share my own story.
No. And for those that don't know, the link is in the chat to enyastrategies.com/books. Please go ahead and get your purchase if you would like. I know we're gonna move to Vince in just a second, and we're gonna come back to this because I think this is a salient conversation. But I think I don't want it to be lost, and I'm gonna a moment of vulnerability check my own self, how I have engaged, and I choose to engage with Black women and women specifically, but I know it's about how you engage with your partners and your loved ones. I want to make sure we're bringing into the conversation how we protect our Black sisters, how we center our own mental health, but at the same time don't put them at risk. And I know I have struggled with some days are not the best. I reflect on conversations, text exchanges, and I know if they made it to the internet, I would probably not be happy. But as I raised my amazing 9-year-old CEO daughter and being a girl dad, the context that I have about what I want, if I were a teenager, would I want to have me be dating my own daughter? I know that's going to sound weird, but I think people get what I'm saying. And I'm looking at how I'm engaging and making sure I'm showing up in the right way. How do we make sure we include how we protect Black women a part of the conversation of our own mental health while centering our mental health? Because seriously, what you just listed, I can barely get to prayer. I do a lot of bedside Baptist on Sunday morning. So you got the acupuncturist, you got the therapist. Hey, hats off to you. How do we take care of ourselves, but then protect our families and our sisters, knowing that we have this weight that's on our shoulder?
Yes. So I say all the time that you cannot pour from an empty cup. You have to get to a place where you're willing to be not selfish, but be willing to invest in yourself enough to seek the support that will be helpful to get you along the healing journey. And so, yes, I know that my regimen sounds like a lot.
That was needed. I need
but,
it. So
right. But because of where I've been and where I'm going, that is what I need to show up authentically and empower. Right. And so, yes, it starts with you, and then as you're able to work on you, you're better able to figure out how to engage with your partners. I found, so for example, I was engaged to my college friend in 2019, and we actually broke up, and that sent me into heartbreak. And so I sought a counselor to be able to help me process what was happening. And as I healed from that heartbreak, I said, okay, I am going to be even more intentional about seeking support to help me understand me better, so that I can become that husband that I have been praying for. And so, uh, one factor that really that solidified my my partner, who now is my wife, was the fact that she is a coach, and she said that she would not date someone who wasn't in therapy.
okay.
So 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 so
So you didn't have
now,
to worry about going, whether it was Cheesecake Factory or Del
right.
Frisco's. The therapist was the most important thing.
Yes,
Okay,
right.
good, good, good,
Now,
good.
now, I will say that I was already in therapy, which helped, right? Like, okay, I mean, so that locked it in. I'm like, I mean, this is the one right here, because if you're talking about therapy and support and coaching and all these things, and I'm already, doing the work, come on, let's go, right? So
Right.
I think it's really being able to create the infrastructures, the systems, the relationships, the ecosystems that can foster Black male and Black female relationships, Black spousal relationships, partners, etc. Really seeing each other for us, because it takes a lot. It's going to take learning and unlearning and deconditioning from the white supremacist ideology that we all have been steeped in. And so, as we're able to decondition from the toxicity of white supremacist patriarchy and all that comes with that, then and as we address our unresolved traumas, I have found my experience, and this is also in the literature, is that as you address those issues, and you're healing, and you're and you and you are reparenting, you're better able to show up that much better and stronger and build better, stronger bonds.
No, very true. Okay, we are going to actually do what I'm going to do here. We'll work together. We're going to create an offline for another Zoom, maybe this coming week or before the end of June, where it's strictly going to be an hour focused on mental health for Black men and get more practitioners and maybe some of the acupuncturists, maybe some of the therapists, everybody coming together so we can really just have a conversation. I appreciate and getting a little choked up the brothers who are texting right now, and I'll say this, and Vince, we're coming to you. I know I'm not 100%. If I'm a car, my gas tank is barely at half. And the smile and veneer may seem like it's going in a great way, but I know things aren't the best. My daughter makes it that much better, and I do it. I think for those that have kids and that family, I do it for her. But I appreciate all of you who are right now, whether you're texting, whether you're in the chat, you're showing love. I appreciate that we're having this moment of vulnerability because I know it doesn't always happen as Black men, and I am just grateful to each and every one of you. We can talk about politics, but I think Nick said it best. If we spend so much talking about the work that if we don't care for ourselves, as you said, Dr. Okenya, if we pour from an empty cup, how can we continue to do this? So we're going to ideate on that idea. It's going to happen before the end of June, but we'll come back to that. Again, Congressman Hank Johnson threw me for a loop. I wasn't expecting Vince. I was going to go right to you and then go right to Vince. But we're going to come back to this. I'm going to bring up Vince Evans right now. You are chair. I think you're going to come on as soon as I see your camera. I think he thought I was playing when I said 7:45. Vince is the executive director of the Congressional Black Caucus. He has an exciting initiative that the caucus is leading. I'm gonna try to see if we can. I'm gonna text him, see where he's at. But as we were talking about the conversation specifically around mental health, brothers, please, find if it's not a paid therapist, if it's a friend, if it's someone who you can go to on a regular basis, whatever it means, get that brother in your life or that friend in your life that you can come to talk about what's going on so that you're not pouring from that empty cup while you're doing the work. My good brother Vince from the great state of Florida. How are you, sir?
I'm well, brother. How are you?
I'm excited, man. Excited to have you here. There's a phrase that you say, and I can't bring up the clip because we're not that good over here. We're like then yet to do it like Roland. You say that we have to be working 24/7, and I don't want to do it. I'm going to do it poor justice. So what is the quote so brothers can
I
do?
say that Black people in America need to be sleeping in shifts. When you are asleep, I need to be up, and when I am up, you need to be asleep because our enemies seem to never be asleep.
There you go. Now, Vince, the caucus came out with it's not even unique. It's asking for accountability in this work around voting rights. What happened just in the last week or so that you and the caucus did, the Congressional Black Caucus did?
Well, thank you for the invitation, and thank you, brothers, for getting on tonight. I just dropped in the chat a link to a Google Doc that will explain everything that I'm about to spend just a few moments talking to you about. So if you would, please be kind enough to look at that document. The Congressional Black Caucus on the 26th of May sent a letter to every major corporation you can think of in this country and beyond. More than 400 companies have received a letter from us. The letter is frankly very clear. If you believe that the democracy, if you believe in voting rights, if you believe that the assault on Black representation in this country is unacceptable, inappropriate, then you ought to say so. And we have called again on every major company, Fortune 500, to respond to us. The deadline is this coming Tuesday, June the 9th. And we have been very clear that the assault happening right now is unacceptable. We've been very clear that what we've seen over the last 6 weeks across the South is particularly galling. In many ways, we are in another post-Reconstruction moment. You had the opportunity earlier tonight to hear from a senior member of our caucus, Hank Johnson of Georgia, a decent man, a wonderful representative. He has been saying for years that we must have court reform. We've not gotten there yet. But the reality is that the United States Supreme Court has gutted what is left of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. What happened last week in Alabama when the court ignored its own precedent squarely puts the Roberts Court among the worst courts we have ever seen in the history of this nation. And the CBC can simply not allow this sitting down. Yes, today it is the members of the Congressional Black Caucus who are under direct assault. Yes, today it is our members who are unfortunately in states like Louisiana, and states like Alabama and states like Missouri and others that are potentially losing their seats, not because the voters have rendered judgment on them, but because there's cheating going on. There's a structural cheating that is happening in this country, and the United States Supreme Court is culpable and it is coordinated. And so business leaders in America must say something about this, particularly because they profit from Black people and Black consumers every day. And everywhere we go, business leaders tell the Congressional Black Caucus that it is a business imperative for us to have a strong democracy where everybody plays by the rules, where everybody has a fair shot to elect a candidate of their choice. They believe in the right of the vote. And they often quote to us what John Lewis said about the sacredness of the franchise. Well, we want to put them to the test. We want to put them to the test. We will not simply take your word for it. You must tell us. So on June 9th, this coming Tuesday, corporate America needs to respond. We will, at some point following June 9th, I don't want to get ahead of the caucus yet, we will announce to America the results of what corporate America did or did not say. I fully expect that some of your favorite corporations will not defend you this coming Tuesday. And you should be prepared when they do not. You should be prepared when we release the results. We're going to release the good people and we're going to release the bad. And this is a very simple question. This ain't about DEI. This ain't about all the other things that they may do. Do you believe that voting rights in America should be protected? Do you believe, will you publicly stand up in this moment when there's an assault on Black people in America? So the links that I have just dropped in that Google Doc tell the story. Those links will help you follow where we have been in the days since we released our letter to these corporations. We have been very fortunate to continue to build a very strong coalition. The first link takes you to the actual press release and the letter that we sent to corporate America, followed by the AP story that wrote about our effort, followed by a live link. If you want to know what businesses we sent it to, click on the third bullet point on the Google Doc that I just sent you. More than 400 corporations across America received it, and we're still counting. When I left my office in the Congress on Friday, I sent it to more corporations. The deadline may be the 9th, but we don't want to leave anybody out. We want everybody to feel like they can get this smoke. So if you see a major corporation in this country that is not on the list, drop the email, tell me the company name, and we will issue the letter to them with the expectation that they will respond. Because if you don't respond, we will know where you stand, and then we reserve the right to take actions. As you will also see on that Google link, we now have the support of all of the major caucuses in the Congress of the United States: the Hispanic Caucus, the Equality Caucus, the New Democrats, the Progressive Democrats. After that, we have a letter from the Leadership Conference on Civil Rights. More than 52 civil rights and advocacy organizations across the country have endorsed the CBC. You will also see a link to the African American mayors. Many of you live in cities where there's a black mayor. They joined our call and sent out a letter of support as well. One of the things I want you to know is there's a link on there that says Business for Voting Rights letter to Congress. In 2021, of the 400 some odd companies that we have sent this letter to, 200 of them said in 2021 that they supported voting rights. They supported the John R. Lewis Voting Rights Act being reauthorized. So 200 of the companies that we sent the letter to, out of the more than 400, 5 years ago, told us publicly what I'm asking them to state publicly today. Why would you not be able to say the same thing 6 years later that you said 5 years later that you said in 2001? The law hasn't changed. The only thing that has changed is the politics. And if you are basically telling us that you are more afraid of the right and the other side, well, then that's a problem, because black consumers over-index. And so if you are more afraid to stand up and say what you said 5 years ago, that's a problem. Don't tell me you love me in private. You're going to have to tell everybody that you love me. And so that is what the CBC is saying. You can look through the rest of these links. Patagonia is the first country in America. The deadline, like I said, is Tuesday. They met the deadline by Thursday. They have already gone on the record. I suspect by tomorrow morning when I get to my office, I've already seen some responses come in tonight that a few more will publicly say. But the real test will be post-Tuesday. In the days after, when we analyze all of the responses and then we release them to you and all of America so that you can know where these corporations stand. The last thing I will say is this. At the bottom of the Google Doc that I dropped, brothers, there are 4 articles that have come out over the weekend about voting rights in America and the real problem we find ourselves in. I encourage you to read these articles over the next couple of days when you have time, particularly this one about the New York Times and the betrayal of what has happened to black voters. Black voters have been betrayed. And also the article about what the United States Supreme Court has done and what it means for us going forward as a people. Congressman Hank Johnson said something on this call that I think is important to note. In the state of Georgia, week after next, they will convene in the legislature. In the Congressional Black Caucus today, our largest delegation of members from a state is Texas and Georgia. The CBC has more members in those states than any of our other states. I think we've got 5 in Texas and 5 in Georgia. They do not intend to write maps that will take effect in 2026, as Mr. Johnson notes, but rather in 2028. Georgia has a real opportunity to bring the heat over the next couple weeks to the legislature. Some of the biggest companies in the country are headquartered in Georgia. My commitment to you tonight is we are going to collect these responses, analyze them as fast as possible, and get out in the public domain as fast as possible who did and did not respond. Because if there are corporations in Georgia who did not respond, at the same time that the legislature is trying to redraw those maps, then y'all know what we got to do. Because you cannot sit silently as another state is taking away black representation and some of the biggest corporations in the country are not responding. So you will know in short order whether they are on the list. And if not, I think this will be the first state post our letter that we have an opportunity to make a real difference. Last thing I will say is this, and this is important. It is not just the Congressional Black Caucus. After they get done with the Congress, they're coming to the state legislatures. After that, they're going to the county council and the county commission, and they're going to the local elected officials. Y'all, this is all coordinated. They won't just take out the CBC. So my plea to you tonight is not just about my members. It is about all of the folks that you know across the country who serve in elected office that look like you and I, who may not even realize yet how this attack and what the Supreme Court has done in the Calais decision, what it will ultimately mean. I believe this is we know it is a coordinated attack with the idea of disenfranchising us at every single level so that there will not be representation. And be clear, if we lose these state legislatures where all the map drawing happens anyway, if they get rid of the state legislatures next, we will be in a world of trouble far beyond that which we are already in. So thank you, Khalil, for giving me a few minutes tonight.
No. I appreciate it, brother. And you've got, you always take me to church when we get all these calls. You got a couple brothers, Ambrose Lane, who runs Million Man Vote, who is a dear brother in this movement, in this work. We've got Karan Kenner. I know Karan disagreed with a brother we had on from Heritage a couple weeks ago to get a difference of opinion. But they are asking, if a company doesn't go in the direction that we need them to, are we calling for a boycott? What is the next action after they respond?
So let me say this. I am purposely not going to answer that question because, one, I want to know what we get in Tuesday. Two, the Congressional Black Caucus is going to have an internal conversation about what our response is as a caucus. But be clear, this ain't just our fight. We didn't do this letter just for us. The community, the collective needs to decide what the next step is. So don't look to us just to tell you. I need y'all to tell me what you all think it should be. I don't know if we can, if I sent out a letter of 400 and only 20 of them respond this Tuesday, we can't go and take on the other 380 all at one time, right? So we got to collectively, you need to tell the CBC what you think. That's why I'm saying perhaps there's a targeted. We start out with one state. I'm not saying it's not a boycott. I'm not saying it's not economic sanctions, whatever it is, we collectively need to do that. The CBC started this, but we don't own this. We all own this collectively.
Okay. Karan, Ambrose, I'm 100% with you. Let's talk about it. I know, Karan, I owe you an email, but we'll get into it. We know what happened with the Target boycott. It became so matter of fact that if you saw someone who was of our community in the Target, hey, brother, sister, what you doing in here? Come on, you got to get out. I think we need to have that mental. My daughter, even to this day, says, are we still boycotting Target? Like, can we go in? Can I get something? Now, I make a choice to go someplace else because I know that the fast concluded from Pastor Jamal Bryant, but I know there are others in Minnesota who are still doing the work. And still,
the brother in the chat that said, Dietrich, pick one and punish them. I will tell you, Congressman Hank Johnson, who was on this call in the not so distant future in the CBC meeting, he said, take one. As you take one, because sometimes you got to make an example out of somebody, and you got to hurt one company. That is something we should all consider.
Okay. Karan, Dietrich, I'm going to follow you. Ambrose, I got y'all. Vince, any final words as you go into this week? Not just about the boycott, about what we're seeing around the country. I know you are a major leader in All Roads Lead to the South. How can brothers who are maybe not as engaged in their communities at a local level, they might just be listening in for the very first time, they want to get engaged, what's some advice and wisdom and encouragement that you could give them to stay in this fight?
I appreciate that. Listen, I just dropped another link in the chat, freedomsummer2026.com. We all went to Montgomery a couple of weeks ago. Everybody you can think of, we were all there together fighting this fight. If you go to that website, it tells you where we're going to be the rest of the summer. Black people from across the country, I don't care what your title is, what you're wearing, what you're dressing, where you're from, we need to be out all summer and fall long. Freedom Summer is the vehicle. Every major Black organization, every leader, every non-titled leader, whatever it is, we are all pushing together. We have great unity right now. We showed that in Montgomery. We're coming to Georgia for June 20, the weekend of Juneteenth. We're going in New York in Juneteenth, and we've got cities for the rest of the summer and fall. So please go to that website, sign up, make sure you get the information. That is the best and largest vehicle right now for Black people in this country to get engaged.
Gotcha. Brother Evans, who always takes us to church as he's doing this work, thank you and thank you. I'll let you get back to the good work that you're doing.
Appreciate y'all, brothers.
I'll take this shift. You got the next one. All right, brothers, we're gonna keep it moving. Now, before we get to our candidate spotlight in just a second, I want to bring on a dynamic brother, Josh Doss over at Hit Strategies, who's going to lean on y'all to get some data and what we're doing and take some messages home back to your communities. Josh, it's also an honor to be here. I love your content that you're putting out. I know we've done a couple other calls, but I'm kind of fanboying right now at the moment. So I appreciate you being on here, brother. As you're coming in this work, you had some tremendous research. You were seeing some love in the chat. Not only tell people, for those that don't know, what is Hit Strategies, who is Josh Doss, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, sure. Hit Strategies is the largest Black-owned research, public opinion research, and political consulting firm in the country, at least to my knowledge. If someone can find a bigger one, let me know. And our expertise is that we research the people who we live at the intersections of the people that we research. So a lot of times you'll have qualitative and quantitative research, that's focus groups and polls that are conducted by people who don't have the life experience and, more importantly, the cultural competency to ask questions to Black and brown people, to young folks, to queer folks, to whomever might be that marginalized community. One, ask the questions, and then two, glean an analysis from their responses that's actually relevant. And the reason why that's so important, the reason why it's so important to have representation in things like surveys and focus groups and polls, is because the people who get seen in public opinion data oftentimes are the ones who get served. Right. So the data go to congressmen and senators and all these other folks. And it says, wow, people are actually struggling in my district. It's this group, it's that group, it's that group. Wow, there actually is a food desert here. It's represented in those surveys. And when we see these massive massive public opinion groups missing Black folks in their surveys, they're also kind of missing an opportunity for us to get resources to our community. So we seek to kind of bridge that gap. And I'm a senior research manager at Hit Strategy. So I lead our Black research and economic research department.
You don't just do that. You do a lot more. And what do you do on social media? Because you're taking some people to task, to the woodshed. Tell everybody about it, and then we'll put in the chat your links.
Yeah, a big part of this this research thing that I've tried to build out is not just having sound research, not just being able to conduct the research, but being able to do two things. The first is democratize it. So give it to as many people who can use it in positive ways as possible. And the second is just to like communicate it at mass. And those things, it might sound the same, but they can be different. And so on social media, I seek to kind of open up conversations about what the data are saying about our everyday conditions, not just for Black and brown people, but about everything that's going on in America. But one of the things that, I've learned from our algorithms is that if you want to build up an audience of people who are going to be really, really relevant in elections, the majority of those folks are actually are a little news avoidant. They don't necessarily follow folks that just talk about politics all day, which is why we need to turn them out, right? And so I use my platform to talk about politics, but I also use my platform to like talk about sports and comedy and all these other things so that people kind of build up a little bit of a trust. So when election times comes, they have a lower wall for me to then talk to them about political operations.
Perfect. You guys just did some unique research, and our brothers over at Black Men Vote were a part of this work with you and a few others. What were you all looking at in that research, and what was it specifically? So share with brothers, and then we'll come back to it. And for those that have a question, if you've never met a Black pollster, you're meeting one now. Go to the chat. If you got a question for Josh, put it in the chat, and we'll follow up with you right now.
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing a suite of research on Black men. I think the one that you're referencing, we actually just did the largest sample of Black men that has been done, at least in the last 10 years, maybe ever. And I want to say, it's not just because we're some special beings that have powers that no one else has. It's just because those types of studies just don't get funded. Yeah. Many people could have collected the data that we did on Black men at mass, and they just haven't. So some of the things that we've been kind of figuring out is we have nailed down 13 pretty distinct resistance activities, right? It can be like posting something on social media, which is a little bit different than retweeting something on social media, reaching out to like a local organization, participating in a church-led activity that is a little bit political, or, attending a town hall. And we kind of, through a series of focus groups and polls, we've defined these 13 distinct resistance activities. And what we have found is if somebody, if anybody, this is the research was among Black men, but if anybody engages in just one of those activities more than 4 months from an election, they become 10 times more likely to participate in that election.
Hmm.
If they engage in two of those activities, they become like 20 times. So we're spending a lot of times, I mean, like the political left and or anybody in politics who's looking to provide for Black people, we spend a lot of times trying to see how we can get them vote, 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 vote. And that's important, right? But one of the ways that we can get them to vote is getting them to kind of engage in these other auxiliary political resistance activities. And so that's one of the things that we're kind of building up pathways to getting people to get active far before the election in non-voting related things.
Gotcha. We have two questions that came in. What is the percentage of Black men that vote in so-called progressive groups? I think I understand your question, Jimmy.
Yes. So if you go issue by issue, it's extremely high. I want to make a point here. I'm so glad you asked that question. Black men are the most political men in America, or I'm sorry, are the most progressive men in America. The data prove it, and it's not even close. And so the reason why that's important is because you will see how narratives get built in the media about how if we end up with X, Y, Z thing, it is because Black men have eroded from the Democratic Party. Two things can be true. There is an erosion of support that's happening among Black men. An increasing percentage of Black men are starting to think about what might be on the other side of the aisle for them. That is true. What is also true is that when you look at issues like abortion, when you look at issues like raising the minimum wage, when you look at issues like, even healthcare, when you go issue by issue, not only are Black men extremely progressive, they over-index every other race of men in America, and it is not close. And so I just think that that's very, very important as we're talking about media narratives of why we ended up with Donald Trump. Why do we end up with fascists? It is because white people keep voting for the Republican Party. Like point blank, period. We don't talk about it that way, but that is the way that it absolutely is.
And I want to come back to how we're consuming media before we beat out of this. And Thomas Pierre, you're up after this. But the next question comes from Pat Evans. How is posting something on social media different from retweeting something on social media?
Yeah, very, very good question. So retweeting, a lot of times when we see and we look at we kind of analyze people in focus groups and how they engage with things on their phones. Retweeting kind of has like a soft acceptance of saying like I'm okay with people knowing that I support this thing, but I myself might not be ready in the position to defend this thing. And and then posting kind of takes people into like a much, we see the people who are willing to post something on their page on their main feed, right? They are very much more willing to stand in front of the thing that they are talking about. And there is actually a place for legacy organizations like the NAACP and the ACLU and all these other groups who want people to eventually turn on in elections to kind of get in the way here. We saw people in focus groups say, I would post some of these things on my page and not just retweet them if I thought that I would have help when it came to legal representation and recourse that might come my way from a very authoritarian Trump administration, right? And so there's organizations like NAACP and such that we're just telling them like, hey, if people lose their jobs because they're getting fired because they said something that is in support of protecting Black rights, and everybody in this country or all the big organizations in this country are bowing down to Trump and getting rid of anybody who's a little bit too political, where is their safety? Where is their what it will protect them? And if you have those types of legal counsel on staff that they can kind of engage with, that makes them 2-3 more times likely to post, which, as we said, makes them 10 times more likely to participate in elections.
Okay. We're gonna do two more questions. William Whitaker in the Q&A. Has there been polls done in Oklahoma City or OKC? If not, how can we start there as a very Republican state if I feel we get left behind as a lost cause?
Yeah, I'm sure there is some city level polling in OKC, but one of the things that we see in a lot of the red states, just like generally in Oklahoma, is that when there is polling that is done in those cities or even in the state as a whole, they just don't have a representative sample of Black voters. And when you're talking about a universe of voters, and then we have to narrow it down to Black people who are usually around 13% of the country, maybe a little bit more or less of your state, and then we have to cut that in half for Black men. That's like 7%, right? And then the percentage of people who are usually registered to vote is even half of that. For us to get a representative sample in a city, we usually need a big universe. We need to get a lot of Black people, Black men into those surveys, and that can be a little bit expensive. So if there are people on the call who have the means to kind of fund some of these sometimes more granular but like expensive polls, so that we can see who's getting left behind in those seats, that's the type of thing that we're always trying to bridge that gap at Hit Strategies.
All right, last two questions, and then we're gonna pivot to the work that you did about how Black men specifically are consuming media. So, and the chat is blowing up. People are just loving asking you some Q&A right now. How do we get brothers who say nothing will change to take a chance in 2026? We'll start there, and then we'll go to Dr. OK Enya to close this out on his question, and then go back to how we're consuming media.
Yeah, so there's a disillusionment and disengagement that is just kind of increasing among Black men. And one of the big reasons why is because we haven't won any of our wins. There were tons of wins throughout the Biden administration for Black and brown people that we didn't really win. They happened when we wanted Black people to turn out in Georgia. We found them. The links went to their phones. It said there's an election coming. There was big institutions that were invested and interested in making sure that those Black people got a text message, got connected to their opportunity to vote. But then even during the Biden administration, when there were wins at policy levels, at legislative levels that made funds available for Black and brown people, be it a tax credit or a school fund or X, Y, and Z, we didn't do a good job of connecting Black folks to our wins. And so one of the things that I would ask if anybody is connected to the funding world is like, let's fund the communications to getting people to vote, but let's also fund the communications to getting people access to the resources. And that breaks down on that disillusionment that you just were mentioning, that when Black men say, ain't nothing gonna happen because ain't nothing ever happened.
No, very true. And then last question from Dr. OK Enya. What percentage of Black men need to show up to the polls to secure a blue house and ideally the Senate this fall and eventually the White House? Does your data get more granular at the state and local levels?
Yes. I don't know the specific percentage of Black men that would need to turn out for that, but what I can tell you is that there are even with everything that just happened at the vote at the federal level with Calais, even with some of the seats that President Trump and his brigade of thugs are gonna steal, there are still 19 flippable house seats on the right here. There's 16 toss-up seats and there's 19 red seats that you can't right now. President Trump can't account for how poorly he's doing. That is pulling down the generic Republican in these states. So there's a path to victory for us to get back the House, even with President Trump's all of his thievery. The states I would pay attention to is, as it pertains to Black men, is Michigan 4, Michigan 7, Michigan 10. There's 3 flippable red seats in Michigan. There's 3 in Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania 7, Pennsylvania 8, Pennsylvania 10. There's a couple in California, California 22 and 48. And those are the ones we haven't personally started polling there. We would love to, but we have not started polling there. But those are the places where Black men's voices are going to be kind of important at the margins.
Perfect. And then finally, the research that you all just did on where Black men are consuming media. Let's leave that with where brothers can, as we're talking we're having this conversation, take it from there.
Yeah, Black men are consuming media, and particularly younger Black men are consuming media on YouTube, a lot on YouTube. Older Black men are on Facebook a little bit more. They're also the ones that are a little bit further away from the needs of persuasion. A lot of young Black men are on YouTube. Don't let anybody tell you that Black men are not participating in long form podcasts, because they absolutely are. And some of the ones that you might not even think. A lot of Black men, actually, we're seeing in our data here, a lot of Black men like the Joe Rogans, a lot of Black men like the Shane Gillis. The main thing that we're finding, and I want to put an exclamation point on this, is that humor is a bridging apparatus for young Black men. They really engage with people that they find funny. Even somebody like Stephen A. Smith, who his discipline is traditionally sports, where we see them talk about how he kind of navigated them from sports to politics, there was a humorous element about his entire appeal to them, right? The big, boisterous, loud yelling, it's funny. And then they get that barrier lowered a little bit. So that's areas that I would look at. YouTube a little bit, not as much on Twitter. Definitely some on Instagram as well, older Black men on Facebook, and humorous content is a very good pathway to talk about politics with young Black men.
Josh, I'm going to follow with you. So some of the slides that you had that we're talking through and some of the data that you all been working through, we want to make sure brothers can get a copy of that, and it'll be in our Tuesday resource email. Make sure you go ahead and click that on the Women Black Men, womenblackmen.org. It's at the top to get your Tuesday resource email. Josh, thank you. I know we're working with you and Terrence to be here every week so we can present this data. What I'm seeing from the chat and texting from brothers is that they really appreciate taking these data pieces back home to their communities later as they're doing the work. So, brother, I appreciate you. I know there's going to be more questions. I'll try to get them over to Josh and the team over at His Strategy so we can get them to respond. But thank you for taking some time on a Sunday to join us.
Yes, sir, brother. Thanks for having me.
All righty. Gents, we are going to move over into our next section. We've got a quick little, if you've been here for the last couple of weeks, we always like to highlight and spotlight a nonprofit, Thomas Pierre. And then state captains are up, Mosley in Alabama, Oughton in South Carolina, and then we do our candidates. State captains, you got about 5 minutes to do your thing, and then we're going to make sure we can start hearing from the Black men who are running, because we got brothers in Idaho, South Dakota, D.C., Maryland, New York, all over the place that are running for office. And so we're really excited to have you on. Thomas Pierre, we've got you here, good brother. There you go. Okay.
Thank
and
you.
I've got your thing already queued up, ready to share.
Thank you. Thank you, Brother Khalil. Thank you again for giving me this platform. Friends, brothers, I'm going to give you my final push. I know this is my third week, but I want to tell you a quick story. I joined I'm a national board certified music teacher, and I joined a professional organization in 2015 in Washington, D.C., a chapter. And I was the first African-American on this board in 2000. I joined before, but on 2015, and there was a need to increase the number of Black teachers in this organization and teachers of color. And it was difficult for me to do it. Sometimes I felt isolated. I told them I was interested in running for vice president, which you would become president right after your 2-year term. And I went through hell. I was threatened, just a lot of things. People were saying it was just in my mind. I went through a lot of racism. This was through the George Floyd, catastrophe that happened, during COVID. It's terrible. And I ran for vice president, and I'm the first African-American president of this organization. And I have been pushing for teachers to get professional development in music, which transcend into all disciplines, so they can impact student learning. Like my life was impacted by my music teacher, and I went to Howard University from the projects in the Bronx. So we are having a karaoke fundraiser, and I know you hear karaoke. It's not about the music and the dancing only, but it's about raising money so that teachers can impact students' life. You don't have to be in Washington, D.C. You can donate. And we are partnering with Mu Lambda. I'm also a brother of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, and we are partnering with the Mu Lambda Foundation to raise money for students, high school students, to go to college. So this is the first time this chapter has ever had anything like this. And this comes from my experience at an HBCU. And I'm asking you to help me finish this term as president, June the 30th, and I'll be on the board as past president. But help me to finish this term, my brothers, my friends. Please, I am begging you. Can you make a donation? The QR code is here. Brother Khalil would also put the link in the chat. You can also go to Mu Lambda 1923. You can also go to mulambdafoundation.org. You can also go to macaosa.org, macaosa.org. And I just thank you very much in advance. I need your support. I thank you in advance for this ties directly with everything we're talking about. We're making a legacy. We're building our communities. And I'm just so proud to be a Black male educator, a national board certified teacher, impacting the lives of our students so they can be great leaders just like we all are here on this panel. Thank you again.
Thank you, Brother Pierre. I'm going to leave it up just for a couple more seconds. The link is in the chat. We'd love for you to support this amazing organization. The karaoke is to raise it so that we can continue this education for our teachers, especially in the music industry. Sorry, in the music profession, as we're teaching our kids. Thank you, Brother Pierre. It's going to be in our resource email. Again, go ahead and click the link at the top, womenblackmen.org. You can sign up for the resource email, but more importantly, click on that Zeppi link in the chat right now. I'm going to drop it in for everybody again. And there we go. All right, brothers. Thank you, Brother Pierre. I know you were traveling, so I'm glad we got you right on.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, state captains, we are going to bring you up. I think we've got Nick and Chris. There we are. Chris, you're quick on that camera. There we go. All right, and then I'm going to find Nick. No, just did something crazy. Nick, there we go. Sorry. Add spotlight. All right, perfect. Yes, here at Women Black Men, it is a team of a small but mighty team that gets this work done. I should not be managing this Zoom as much as I do, but it's just we gotta wear many hats. Chris, I'm gonna come to you. 3 minutes. What's going on the ground in Alabama? How are you feeling after the Supreme Court case? Nick, for you, what's happening as we're getting ready? You all have your primary this Tuesday in South Carolina. We saw what Congressman Clyburn just defeated and what South Carolina said to the President of the United States. But Chris, to you first, how are you feeling, brother? What does this mean? And should brothers still show up and vote in this election, or is it already lost?
Well, thank you, Khalil. Thank you to everyone. So I'm Chris Mosley, and so I am here. Thank you for this tremendous honor. So Khalil, after Calais, we've just been working, brother, as you know. They took up Allen versus Milligan, and that struck down the Section 2 provision for the congressional maps. We will be using the 2023 maps for the upcoming election on August the 11th. And so our response, as you know, we had the All Roads Leads to the South rally that Vince Evans and others participated in and really moved that work forward. And so really, we're just getting ready for this upcoming election on August the 11th. Shamari Figures is one of the 2 Black Congress people in the state of Alabama. Other one is Congresswoman Terry Sewell. And so Shamari will be running under a district that previously had been represented by a white person. However, he, as our second opportunity district in the state of Alabama, his district went from 48 to 38. So he will be running. Again, there will be a primary again on August 11th. And we're just really, really excited about all of the work that we're doing here in Alabama. So we're asking everybody, because at this point in time, with what happened at the Supreme Court as it relates to Allen versus Milligan, we need overwhelming turnout. We need massive turnout. We need every brother to go to the poll, be they in Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, or any of these upcoming elections. So as you know, we're just working, man. The work is fun. But it's there and it's in front of us. And as you know, Vince was on earlier, and I know at the national level with CBC, they're doing a whole lot of work. But the folks from Alabama who are real national leaders, Latasha Brown, Cliff Albright, Dee Reed, Deanna Reed, we have some tremendous leaders from Alabama who are leading not only here locally in the state, but also nationally, along with many of our partners like Women Black Men, NAACP Legal Defense Fund, and others.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you for all the work that you're doing to organize Black men with women, Black men on the ground in Alabama. Love you, brother. Nick, over to you.
Hey everybody, how y'all doing?
Great. Now, South Carolina, your congressman from the 6th Congressional showed us what it's like to organize at the state level and really understand what it means to be in office for so long. How are you feeling about this as you're coming up on your primary election on June 9th?
Feeling really good. And speaking on that, the one thing that I'm seeing on the ground, I guess overall, is not just turnout. It has a lot to do with the process. People are actually paying attention. South Carolina just finished our early voting as of Friday. We had 9 days of early voting, and we had 318,602 ballots cast. We broke records every single day of early voting. We broke records for single day turnout. The first day we had over 56,000 people come out and vote.
Wow.
In early vote. And so it's amazing. And to put it in context, you're talking about 2024, we had 120,178 people vote during the presidential primaries.
Shout out
2022,
to
we had 100,000 people vote.
Shout out to Crystal Spain, his chair. She's doing a great job.
That's it. So we've tripled numbers since 2022, and this just wasn't a random spike. You know, that redistricting piece that we beat down is coming back up because they're already working on how to redistrict our House seats in January. But right now, we have someone as a Democrat running at every single level of government here in South Carolina for the first time in history. We're talking about from governor all the way down to attorney general, secretary of education, secretary of state, comptroller general. Most people didn't even know what that was. So we've had a lot of education pieces going on across the state where people are opening their doors, they're having conversations, they're paying attention.
There you go.
You know, all 124 House seats have a Democrat running for it. And so we are excited to help maybe flip some seats because we've had a supermajority here with Republican control at our state house level for over 20 years, give or take.
Yeah.
You know, so 2 decades in.
Well, look, give us that number one more time. How many people early voted in South Carolina this cycle?
318,602 people. First week of early vote, we were holding strong at 68% Democrats who came out to early vote. This second week, I'm still waiting on final tallies of some of the numbers that were provisional during early vote, but I believe we're holding steady at 62 to 65% in terms of early vote turnout. One thing that I did notice that we're seeing across the ground, we have folks that are coming out to vote that have not voted since 2016 and 2018.
Wow.
We also have folks that only participate in general elections only, but some of them haven't participated since 2016. So it's the turnout is strong.
That's amazing.
That's it, you know, and I think one thing, you know, Richland County, which is a piece of it is in Congressman Clyburn's district, typically has the strongest Democratic performance turnout. We do have one of the largest African-American populations in the state, give or take, but there was a case that happened in 2023 where a gas station owner accused a young Black male of stealing water bottles from his store. And him and his son chased him down from the store, shot him in the back and killed him. There's been a lot of outrage behind it, a lot of movement behind it, because the case that just happened this week, he was found not guilty of murder.
Yeah.
And so the conversations are being opened up in terms of, okay, who makes the law where we only have murder? There's no second degree, third degree, so on and so on. You know, the education piece of we elect our legislators who help rewrite these laws. So now we need to talk about who we are actually electing. How can we change those laws? We elect our solicitors. Our legislators appoint our judges. We elect our attorney generals, things of that nature. So the conversation is open up for folks that if you don't know, now you actually have a chance to actually learn and participate in the process. And they're finally realizing that elections have consequences, you know, not just right now, not just tomorrow, but years down the line. We can't keep the same status quo.
No, I mean, it's watching that video and watching that case is eerily similar to 1991, where the young girl in Los Angeles was shot in the head by the Asian grocery store owner and was acquitted. And the judge's remarks, I think, was she said she was a fine woman, if memory serves me. Our lives matter, our voices matter, our votes definitely matter. And thank you, Nick and Chris. We're going to continue to do this work. Appreciate everybody that supports us. But we bring in our state captains so that you can see these are folks who are working on the ground, who we go to, who we work with to bring out black men when we're trying to turn them out to vote and engage them, not just about voting. Our strategy is that we listen, we educate, we register, and then we mobilize. That's our step in our process. Thank you, Nick. We are going to start bringing up some of the candidates in our power. Now, here's the rules of the road for everybody. I know that you've been on for the past couple of weeks. You get up. We might try to do like a whole hodgepodge to see everybody, but I know others are joining in. You got a couple of minutes, 2 or 3 minutes that you can talk about yourself, your candidacy, and why voters, especially brothers who are on, people who are watching this, we're streaming this live on our YouTube channel right now, womenblackmen.org, should be supporting you. We're not going to necessarily, we will not have a back and forth with other candidates that you may be running against in your respective districts. This is an open forum. Our goal is to make sure we're highlighting black men who are running for office. That means statewide, Senate, House, down to mayor, county council, city council at large. We've got a few of those on. So we wanted to, or county executive, because we got Will Jawando on as well from Montgomery County. Okay. We are going to start off in the great state of Arkansas. Frederick Love. Yes, there is a black man who is running to be the next governor of Arkansas. We're going to bring him up right now.
Good evening, Khalil. Good evening, brothers. Hey, first of all, I appreciate the platform and I appreciate the conversation that we've had. You know, we've talked a lot about mental health. We talked on different things. Let me tell you something. Mental health and running for office go hand in hand. I'm going to let you know that because I'm telling you, brothers, it does get hard out there. You all know that. And here's the thing about mental health. At some point in time, we do need to get a group together where we can have a safe space for us to talk, because there's so many times that we are held at a level that if we discuss anything that we want that is confidential, I mean, it may escape. And so that's kind of the big thing that I want to just put out there just for this moment. All right, so brothers, hey, I am from the great state of Arkansas. I've spent 16 years in the House and the Senate. So I have probably the worst governor in the country, who used to be the mouthpiece for Donald Trump, Sarah Sanders. And now she is actually killing our state. So I do need your support. I need your help. I'd like the fact that Joshua did tell us some tips on where young black men are getting their news, because we need to get them engaged. It is important that we become engaged in everything, brothers, because here's the thing. Someone sacrificed for us to be comfortable. We cannot sit out this one. You know, far too many times I hear brothers say, hey, Fred, you know what, I'm good. Well, you're good today, but your kids are not going to be good tomorrow. Because in my state, and I'm pretty sure it's happening across the nation, they are stripping every opportunity they can away from us. They don't want us where our parents were. They want us back to where our grandparents were. And so, brothers, if we do not stand up, if we do not lead the charge, that's going to hurt our community. So therefore, that's why I'm asking for your support. There's three things that I'm running on, and then I'm out of here. You all, if you come to Arkansas, if you know anything about Arkansas, you know Little Rock is a majority minority city. But then once you get outside of Little Rock, it becomes tough. Now we have the Delta that is butted up against Tennessee, which we have Memphis. But you all, we have to get our votes out. We have to get the support there. As you know, it's hard in southern states to get brothers elected. But this time we can do it, and I'm going to tell you why. Because the same pain that we are feeling, white people are feeling too now. And so this is our opportunity, you all. I don't care where you are in the South. This is our opportunity, and I'm telling you, 2026 is going to be our year. Thank you all, Khalil. Thank you for providing me a platform. Brothers, hey, I wish you all the best, but make sure that you take care of your mental health, because mental health and running for office go hand in hand.
Well,
God bless.
don't go too fast. Now I want in your state. You've got Chris Jones, who's running for Congress. He connected us on
Yes, sir.
text. I'm gonna follow up with you. We want to make sure we're highlighting, and I think far too often we talk about the federal level. The goal was we've got so many dynamic brothers. Evan Ford, who's running for governor in Nevada, couldn't jump on tonight. I know their primary is on Tuesday. We're supporting him. We're 100% behind you. Please put your link in the chat so brothers can find out more about you and if they wish, support you.
Will do. I appreciate that.
Okay. Vincent Coe, we are coming over to you, good sir. You are running for
State treasurer.
State treasurer in the great state of South Carolina. You got your primary on Tuesday.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, great to be on with you brothers this evening. And I just want to reiterate a little bit what Nicholas just said. We have over 300,000 folks that have already voted here in South Carolina. I think that is due to the fact that the president of the United States tried to put a call down here to get the redistricting started, and voting had already started, and the folks said not so. And so I think this is a pivotal moment where we have the opportunity to make great change, not just here in South Carolina, but all across the world. As I said, I'm running for state treasurer for the state of South Carolina. South Carolina has not had a person of color in this office in over 150 years. So it is fair time for there to be some change and accountability back to this office. I am convinced that if we continue to show up and let our voices be heard, change can happen. And I think it has become abundantly clear that our votes do matter, because as was said earlier, if it didn't matter, they wouldn't be trying to take it. This office, the office of treasurer, so basically is the state's banker for the state of South Carolina. It's one of the constitutional offices. As you all will see, there's Dr. Jermaine Johnson is one of the candidates who's running for governor. And so I felt that this is the time that don't sit on the sidelines. You know, I think the question being asked is, well, what are you going to do with all the things that are happening? We have a convicted felon that's running the United States. I think we can do a little bit better. I just think that we can do a little bit better. My experience, I'm a trained lawyer, trained bank examiner. I know how to follow the money. Over $70 billion worth of state treasurers overseas, and I just believe that I have the technical abilities, the temperament to run this job and make South Carolina greater. And the power is in the purse. Black folk, we control a lot of the spending capital here, not just in South Carolina, but all across the world. If we use that power collectively, change can happen. And it can't be business as usual. Folks just take us for granted. And I just think that this is that moment. And so I'm just grateful to be on, and I'm so proud to see all the brothers on the line that's standing up and doing something about it, not just talking about it, but doing something. And so I believe this is the moment, and I'm just grateful. Folks want to learn more about my platform, they go to vincentforsc.com. I'll drop it in the chat. But just again, it's just powerful, and I'm grateful to be on. Thank you all. And remember, shout out to the Mega Sci-Fi. I had to throw that in there. So
I'm not starting that right now.
Don't do it. Just had to put it out.
I was with one of your brothers earlier today with the kids and everything else. But thank you, Vincent. I really appreciate it. And you reached out to me. We are here to support every Black man who is running, making sure we give them a platform so their voice can be heard. You're going to be in the Tuesday resource email. Good luck on your election on Tuesday. As you mentioned, Jermaine Johnson, state representative, is also running for governor of South Carolina. And you've got Brandon Brown, who is also running for a U.S. senator out of South Carolina.
Yes. And Jason Belton also is running for Secretary of State. I did want to shout that out as well.
Okay. Do a text chain between me, you, and Jason. We'll make sure we get him on. Talk about it. But good luck on your primary on Tuesday, brother.
Thank you so much.
All righty. All right. Let's see. We've got coming up next. We have Kelly Esty, Dr. Kelly Esty in Georgia. I know. So for those candidates who are on, yes, it's going to be lightning fast. We're coming to you next. We're going to spotlight you. And thank you. You've been on since the beginning. I know it's tough for some of the candidates, but we want to make sure we get some of these policies, talk about some of our mental health, get some data, and then come over to you. Doctor, what's going on in Georgia? I know you just won, so you're the Democratic elect.
Yes, nominee for the 8th congressional district. Thank you. Thank you for this conversation. This was a great convo. I think it's definitely needed to be discussed, especially as we go forward and move America in a different direction. And that's one of the reasons why I'm running, because it's time for us to go in a different direction when it comes to education, wherever it is. At this point, we're kind of headed over a cliff. But I am running for Georgia's 8th congressional district. I am running for it to be your next congressman. And my district is about 30 counties in the state of Georgia. So it's a pretty geographically large and diverse district. The reason I chose that district is because I'm from rural Mississippi, and the district reminds me so much of where I came from. And a lot of it is really trying to give folks that representation that they deserve, especially with someone who has the experience that I've had. Before I have a PhD in public policy. I've studied quantitative poverty. I'm a veteran of the United States Navy. You know, I studied nuclear power school while I was there. And I also have helped to create the city of South Fulton here in the state of Georgia, which is one of the largest cities filled with Black folks in the country. And it has an all Black mayor and city council, and it has about 800 folks that it employs. And we did that because we were solving a problem of warehouses, because folks were nibbling us off and adding warehouses to our nicer neighborhoods. And so at the time I was sitting on the zoning board for Fulton County, and I was like, you know what? Here's a situation. We have a solution to this situation. And now that city, it's almost 10 years old, and it has a $431 million budget, and is about to leapfrog Columbus, Georgia in size. So that's the kind of stuff that we do. I solve problems. Biggest things for me is my platform, free education. And that means from preschool to PhD. Because if you want a viable economic situation, you have your people healthy and you have them educated. And that brings me to my second point, is universal health care, which means that we have enough tax dollars that we generate in this country to ensure that people are educated and healthy. One of the big things that I want to do for the state directly is to have a comprehensive transportation plan for the state of Georgia. And that is connecting all of our large cities to one another so that we can start to move assets around the city or around the state, as opposed to having it bunch up in cities like Atlanta and Augusta. And that also, as we lose hospitals in my rural district, that'll also give people transportation and get back and forth to those areas where they can seek medical care. Because right now we have a situation where the big beautiful bill is ripping away a lot of hospitals in my district. It's also ripping away a lot of farmers in my district as well, because I do have a rural district mainly. But you can check me out at Dr. Kelly SD or kellysd4congress.com, and I put that link in the chat. Please donate and share and let folks know about my campaign. I am running against a MAGA Republican, and he has been in lockstep with Donald Trump 100% of the time. This is the same man that wrote the bill to change the Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America. So he hasn't done anything for his constituents, and I get complaints consistently about him. And that's another point. I want to invest more in robust constituent services for my district, because they need to hear from me, they need to see me, and I need to represent them, because I want to hear their problems and their issues, because that's what I'm there for, to take that to Washington. And that is my commitment to my constituents, and they will always have my ear. And I will never leave them to the point where they're not getting emails answered or they're not getting town halls. And that's definitely one big thing that's been an issue in my district. So thank you guys for giving us this platform. I really appreciate it. And then if you have any questions for me, I will be here.
All righty. Kelly, Dr. Kelly, I appreciate you being on. And the reason why we're focusing on all Black men, especially races like yours, we know what's being lost around voting rights. But if Black folks can show out and vote in a district like yours, and we can flip that, obviously we don't want to lose either Shamari Figures, Cleo Fields, or other Black men who are in Congress. But if we can find other districts that we can take on, say like yours, say like Julian Bodine in South Dakota, who's running for U.S. Senate, or Brandon Brown, who's running in South Carolina, we can then maybe take back the House and the Senate and do some things unique. Thank you, Dr. Kelly. We got your link in the chat. We are now going to move over to my home city. I was born and raised D.C. Really appreciate it. Now, we've got a whole lot of folks. We're going to start with folks that are running to replace Eleanor Holmes Norton or take over Eleanor Holmes Norton's seat. We are going to go to a write-in candidate, Kelly Michael Williams. Here we go. All right, brother, go for it.
What's up, Khalil, man? How you doing? Thank you so much for this opportunity. I got a little head cold, so I'm a little stuffy here, but certainly I didn't want to pass up this opportunity to be able to meet with you and the brothers. So I thank all the brothers for being on the call. Certainly, this is a great platform for us to be able to connect and get our messages out. Certainly, I'm running for Congress here in the first district of the District of Columbia, replacing Eleanor Holmes Norton. I ran in 2024 as well as 2022, finishing second in both of those contests. I am the only candidate with experience at every level of the government, from the White House and federal agency as an administrator to the state legislature, working for the Speaker of the House, to the district council, and then I'm chairman of the ANC Commission, Advisory Neighborhood Commission here in DC. I'm a small business owner, partner of the Strand Restaurant in Deanwood, rated the best brunch in town. I know you've been there, Khalil, so you got to eat our Sunday brunch, certainly. But more importantly, what I'm doing in the community right now as an ANC commissioner, but just as a small business owner, is I'm teaching young brothers and sisters how to build drones and how to fly them. And I'm doing that so that they can be able to become air traffic controllers, because some of our kids aren't going to go to college. So we want to be able to give them the skill sets and the ability to be able to make good money with a high school diploma. And it's the first in the country where we're taking mental health issues and combining them with how they build these drones, deal with conflict resolution, deal with problem solving, deal with trauma, and get them passing tests from the trust test to the Part 107. We're helping them get their entrepreneurship going on. We're going to help them with business licensing. And then we're teaching them and preparing them for the ATC, the air traffic controller exam. We're giving them flight instructions so they become pilots and mechanics or whatever. And these are the type of things that we're doing in the community, aside from being elected or running for elected office. I also have a patent pending, and I'm opening up a credit union in Ward 8, which is our, predominantly Black community in DC. But the top three things that I'm going to be working on when I get to Congress is healthcare, housing, and home rule. Healthcare, real quick, I want to provide a family caregiver bill of rights that will help take care of the caregiver. I took care of my mother for 13 years. She had Alzheimer's and dementia. I actually left the workforce to do so. And as you know, brothers, when you leave the workforce to take care of a loved one, you don't have no income coming in, you don't have retirement accumulating, you don't have health insurance, you don't have a whole bunch of things. And so what I wanted to create is opportunity, because in our community, we end up taking care of our loved ones. Right? We don't have the ability to put them in a nursing home or care housing and pay that $5,000 to $7,000 a month to do that. So I took that on, that responsibility on, and took care of my mother for 13 years, last 8 years by myself. And I want to make sure that other people in that position have the opportunity to still be able to get paid, have benefits, and be able to work through. I was also homeless in the city. There's no services for brothers in the city in terms of single fatherhood. If you're a single father, you can't take your child into a shelter. Now, I didn't know that at the time, but I certainly got a rude awakening when I tried to get social services or benefits when that happened, when my son was 3 years old. So I wasn't able to do those things. I ended up sleeping in the back of my car, but then trying to raise my son. Fortunately, that 3-year-old who was homeless 19 years ago is a graduate of NYU and just got his master's from Beckwith University in London, England. So when we have the opportunity to do what we're supposed to do, when we step up, things happen. And as we step up as members of the Congress, as our state legislature, as governors, as controllers, as treasurers, things are going to happen. And what I'm going to encourage each of you to do is step up and continue to step up, but also help and support the rest of the brothers on the call. And then lastly, the other thing I'm doing is housing, because I said I was homeless in the city. Housing, I'm introducing the HOPE Act. I think we need to provide our community with some hope. Right now, we don't have that hope. But if we provide HOPE Act, the HOPE Act is basically allowing individuals to save money for a down payment for their house, similar to like the 529 College Fund Act. So I'm going to allow people who are single at $150,000 a year or married at $250,000 or maybe $300,000 to save 20% of their income pre-tax, tax-free, earning interest for whatever time they need to save it for, and be able to get a down payment for the house, and be able to combine that with other home buying products. So it's not going to be singular, it can be combined. So they can literally have maybe $100,000, $200,000 saved to be able to buy a house. As you know, that's really hard for us to do. But also in the district, what we have is that we have what is our area median income is $170,000. No one in the district is averaging $170,000. But that's what we determine what our affordability is. So I want to change that. No one on the council, no one in our administration has ever thought about changing that and going to HUD and just having a conversation and changing the policy, because it's not a law. So what we want to do is we want to change that policy. Make that 170,000 based on the 8 wards of DC, not the 5 counties of Maryland and 5 counties of Virginia, where it is right now. So we want to change that. And then home rule, we're going straight at the gut. We want to make sure we give the mayor the power of the National Guard and the federal agencies on the street. We want to change and amend the 740 Act, the Home Rule Act in DC. We want to change that. We want to be able to block the legislative riders. We want to block budget overrides, and we want to transfer that power to the mayor. And we also have ability to transfer and create our statehood for ourselves. Educationally, I'm gonna hit them with this, is free education for every graduate from DC public schools or DC private PCS, charter schools. I'm asking businesses to invest 1%, and I'm gonna give them a 2% rebate. They get a 2% tax cut, and they get a qualified, educated workforce every year, and they have to hire them for 3 years. So what we're trying to do now is we're taking our youth, all they have to do is graduate from high school. If they graduate from high school, they get a free education at UDC, our University of District of Columbia, all right? Then when they graduate, they get a job with those businesses and companies in the district for a minimum of 3 years, where they're basically paying back the company for being able to help them get a free education. They get that for 3 years. Now they're getting paid, they're getting retirement, they're getting benefits, and they're learning and getting skills. But more importantly, the businesses are getting an educated, qualified workforce. Because right now, you know, in our community, they always say, we can't find anybody qualified that looks like us. Well, that excuse is going to be out the window. So now we're going to be able to provide them with free education, also give a pipeline and create a pipeline for them to be able to now have continuous workforce coming through. So a workforce development program that's going to have our youth, especially in our minority, Black and brown communities, being able to get free education where parents don't have to worry about it. They don't have to worry about it. All they got to do is graduate from high school. They graduate from high school, they got a degree coming in 4 years and a job guaranteed for 3 years after that, where then they can go anywhere in the country and take that experience and bloom and blossom. So whether you graduate from high school or you go to college or you don't, I'm providing opportunities for you in every other category, through the drones, through cybersecurity, and everything else. Go ahead, Kelly. I see my time is up.
What's the website that we can, so brothers can support you? And what I love about my home city is that my brothers are passionate. We want to make some change.
That's right.
Folks, the website that they can go to check you out. You got John Johnson talking about you and respecting and the care for your mom. But what's the website? We'll make sure we get it in the chat.
So I'll put it in chat, but it's Kelly Michael for DC, KELLYMIKEL for DC. And as Khalil said, I'm a write-in candidate. And I'm a write-in candidate because the 5 other candidates that were on the ballot with me were all targeted and taken off the ballot for various reasons. They left 1 African American on the ballot against 4 white folks. Now, I'm not saying why or how, but the problem is that the process that we had to go through, being out in the winter collecting all those signatures, I was out there collecting signatures every day, all day. I have integrity and I was doing the right thing. So when they then kicked me off the ballot, I had to sit there and take that in for a minute. But I said, I'm not giving up. I'm going to do it right in. I'm going to do the impossible and make it possible, because I know that I am qualified, prepared, and ready. And what they're not expecting is for me to come back. And so I had to come back and say, there's got to be an alternative. We can't just keep doing the status quo, like my brother said earlier. We got to make changes in this city. And this is our nation's capital, and we're about to make some changes. So I need your support. I ask for your vote. Go to my website. Certainly, if you're in DC, reach out to us, Kelly Michael for DC. I put it in the chat, put an email in the chat. Hit us up, and let's get this thing going.
Next time, just have the big chair as your background, not the Golden Gate Bridge, all right?
Well, you know, home state. Your home state.
Oh, okay. All right. We're going to bring up Oye, who's running for DC Council at large. And then we're going to go to Greg Jackson. Wait a minute. Hold on. Sorry, I put the spotlight on you. There we go. All right. There we are. All right. I love it, man. That's a picture right there. What's going on, brother? Tell us about yourself and the race you're running in.
Thank you so much, Khalil, for this opportunity. I also want to thank the fellow Black men in DC for running. It's not an easy thing to do, and it's really excited to join the stage and panel with so many great people. My name is Dr. Oye Owolewa, and before I get into the race that I'm running for, I want to talk a little bit about me because that'll make sense on why I do what I do. Now, unlike most people running for office, I'm not from DC. I was born in America, but my story doesn't begin there. My mom and dad were born and raised in Nigeria. My dad came from humble beginnings. He was a farmer in Nigeria. And long story short, I owe everything of my life to the people on this call. You see, my mom and dad was able to come to America in the 1970s, years right after the Civil Rights Act in 1964, decades after Brown versus Board of Education. People on this call and our ancestors that really fought, sweat, and bled for the rights that my parents were able to take advantage of. And my parents worked really hard, and they were able to stay because of amnesty, but they knew they didn't earn their opportunity. They were granted from other people's struggles. So my parents forced me to work hard, but most importantly, give back to those who made my life and my opportunity possible. So as a good child of immigrant parents, I became a pharmacist and I moved to Washington, D.C., where I was able to start that public service, helping kids get interested in science careers by showing them experiments. But then I moved to Ward 8, in my opinion, the greatest city in the world, but also the city of disparities. You see, me and my neighbors, we live 25 years less than our friends that live in Foxhall and the Palisades in Georgetown. Where the rest of the city has about 65% of the adults have bachelor's degrees, in Ward 8, we have 21%. When we're talking about the unemployment rate in DC being the highest, as in 10%, Ward 8 has upwards of 20% unemployment. And that does not include underemployment or people who've just given up finding jobs, folks who are trying to have work when they're just marginalized. So rather than just come and say the right thing, we stepped up. We became an ANC commissioner and started getting involved in the community. We became a shadow representative fighting for DC statehood, but our work did not end there. We created expunge claims to help returning citizens get their records cleared and live a better life. We did healthcare pop-ups to make sure people aren't falling between the cracks. We did business workshops to make sure that minority businesses learn how to get grants, contracts, and certifications. And when they were doing the right thing, we fought for them to get the funding that they deserved. And then Trump hit, right? We lost 40,000 jobs from the federal government, impacting our local economy. We saw our healthcare decimated with budget cuts, but we still found $1 billion to put into a stadium, even though people in our communities were not being served. So the people that we supported, the people that rocked with us, the people that gave us a chance in DC convinced us to run for council at large. And yes, we are running to plug the holes, but we're also running to make sure we do the right thing. At a point where young people are facing the highest in student debt, we want to make sure we're intentionally making UDC tuition free, so we're reducing barriers to college. At a time where we are facing grade high levels of life expectancy gaps, we're trying to fortify and reinvest in our healthcare infrastructure so people are not falling behind. And last but not least, we're trying to bring the utilities costs down, try and make housing more affordable and attainable, and making sure we're getting corporations and billionaires out of our business and create a budget that invests in people and not in special interests. At a time where young people are being blamed for being outside, we're trying to invest in youth activities and take that $6 million and bring it back to DPR rather than putting in DYRS in detention. We're trying to make intentionality into the work that we're doing, so we're supporting those who made DC what it is. And since we're on the call with Black men, I want to talk about what we're trying to do specifically with Black men. I endorse my brother Ambrose Lane's Office of Men's Health program so we can actually find root causes of our issues. We want to create an office that has the agency to identify the problems. Also trying to give them the tools to...
Oh no! I think we lost him, ladies and gentlemen. Oh no, okay. Is that me?
Yeah, I think we lost him.
All right. We're gonna come up to you, sir. Greg Jackson is running for DC Council at Large in DC. I'm gonna text Oye to see if we can get him back on, Dr. Oye. But Greg Jackson, Team Action Jackson, good to see you.
What's up, Khalil?
We go back to 2012, if not longer. We are both Commanders fans. We glutton with the punishment, but I want to see a question for you. Is it Knicks in 4, or what do you think?
Well, me and my brother Dwight Davis just had a one-on-one battle yesterday, and I got my Knicks orange on right now, so I got to rock with the Knicks on this one.
All right. No, I completely understand. But you're running for DC Council at large. Oh yeah, we're gonna come right back to you. Sorry, I know your signal cut out.
Yeah,
You can go
sorry,
back to
I have
it.
some issues, technical difficulties. My bad.
Give me, Greg. No, go with Greg, and then we're gonna come right back to you. Oh yeah, is that cool?
Perfect, no
Oh,
problem.
he can finish. That's fine. I'm here. Go
Hold on,
ahead.
give me 1 sec, Greg. Hold on. You gonna keep going. All right, all right. You're running for DC Council at large, Greg. Tell us about yourself and your candidacy. You're on mute.
All right. All right. Well, greetings, everybody. Greeting, brothers. My name is Greg Jackson. I'm running for DC Council at large, a Democratic seat. Sorry for my T-shirt, but we've been out knocking doors all day, and the sun just dropped, and we're still pushing. Look, I came to politics in this running for office not out of political ambition, not because it looked good on a resume, but because of circumstance. In April of 2013, I was caught in a crossfire, and the bullet that hit me hit 2 arteries, nearly costing my life. And in that time, I saw a White House that wasn't stepping up to address the issue of gun violence. I saw a Congress that hadn't passed a law in over 20 years. And I saw a city that didn't even bother to give me a police report until 9 years later. And so that's where I decided from my hospital room that if I ever got back on my feet, I would do all I can to keep brothers like you all and me from going through the crisis of gun violence again. Since then, I've been working on this issue for 13 years. I served in the mayor's office with Khalil and others for 2 years, supporting families that have been impacted by violence. I moved on to the federal level and helped 31 states pass laws to address the issue of gun violence. And then in 2022, I passed the first law on gun violence in 30 years, the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, that invested $42 billion into school mental health. It created 988, the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. It funded federally community violence intervention for the first time and created literally billions of dollars for resources for at-risk youth and Black and brown communities. And as a result of that, President Biden appointed me to be his advisor on all things gun violence prevention, and I was the deputy director for the first ever White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention. But in that time, DC continued to struggle. And while America reduced homicides by 49% while I was in the White House, DC has still struggled to address this crisis. Last year, we lost 187 of our neighbors to homicides, and the murder rate in DC is now higher than New York, Chicago, Detroit, Miami, and Baltimore. And so I'm running to help address this because for me, it's not numbers. It's literally the memories I have. It includes 5 of my mentees who were shot and killed. DeMarcos Pinckney, Kevo, Devon, Karan, all young boys full of promise, full of potential, Black boys and that could have been Black men like us on this call who were lost because this district did not have a strategy and did not take action on this issue. So I'm running to bring a vision to DC and really a master plan and agenda, the same playbook that we ran in the White House to help DC become a safer city for everyone. And public safety is not just about policing and crime. It's about addressing the root causes that lead to that moment. That means making sure that we have quality education, access to mental health, trauma care, affordable and reliable housing, effective transportation, all the things that we know our communities need to thrive, all are root causes that lead to that tragic moment that has taken too many lives here in the district. And so I'm fighting for that. And DC is in a crisis. Right now, we have Trump deploying National Guard on the streets. We have folks that are pushing for permanent curfews throughout the city, but only in the more populated mainstream parts of town, not in our Black and brown neighborhoods, right? We also are seeing a moment where the discussion is about how many cops do we have on the street, not how many lives do we save from this huge crisis. And so I am running to really be the first and only public safety expert on DC Council to make sure that we bring real results, real resources, and real experience. I am the candidate that has worked at all levels of government. There's no one else in my race that's worked at the congressional or White House level. I am, at the end of the day, DC Council is a legislative making body, and I've helped pass laws again in 31 states and also federally. And so we are at a point where we need real action. We need real leaders who know how to move forward policy, because literally our Black and brown, not even just our Black, we talking to y'all as brothers, our Black boys are depending on us. DC has become the city with the highest gentrification in the country. We now have the highest unemployment of any major city in the country on top of our crisis with public safety. And I'm so excited to run to help bring a vision that I know will help us save lives and make sure that everyone can thrive. So my name is Greg Jackson. I'm running because I think we need less talk and more action. running against 8 other candidates. We got some great ones on here like Dwight Davis, but we also have folks who have talked about policy and ideas for years. We've have elected officials that are running who have been in office for now over 5 years and have not shown any real results. And we are literally at a crisis point for this district. And so I hope you will support me. I'll put my link in the chat for all my information, but this is a make or break moment for this district, a city that we call Chocolate City, a city that I love and nearly died for. And from you all across the country, we need your support for this critical election, and the voting starts tomorrow. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Khalil. Thanks to everybody for tuning in, and I look forward to fighting alongside you.
Perfect. And for those that are wondering, DC has, we did South Carolina and some of the other states up first. Fred Love already won his primary. He's the Democratic elect for governor. Then we went to South Carolina because they're tomorrow. I mean, they're on Tuesday. DC is on the 16th, and then Maryland is on the 23rd. Thank you, Greg. Oye, we're going to come back over to you. And Greg, put your stuff in the chat so we can put it back on for everybody. Oye, we're going to come right back to you. And then Dwight, don't worry, I'm bringing you up now. Perfect.
Absolutely. And I'll be quick. I really appreciate you guys for sticking with me, and I appreciate you, Greg, for stepping in. Again, we're really trying to fix those gaps that we're seeing. There's no reason why Black folks should be living 25 years less because they live in a certain zip code compared to other people living in other areas. This is wrong. We need a healthcare worker who understands what the cliff that we're going to be facing in 2027 when the big unbeautiful bill kicks in, making sure our hospitals are well funded, making sure our healthcare infrastructure is keeping people alive, and folks that live Southeast are living with the dignity that they deserve. We're trying to end the age of cronyism where you have to know somebody to get an economic opportunity, and really trying to level the economic playing field. So I won't go for too long. I really appreciate you guys for not only allowing us candidates to be here, but to really keep these conversations alive, because Black men are voting. Black men are being available for their families. Black men are standing up for their community, and this call proves just that. So please go to my website, vote4oye.com. You can donate to this campaign. If you live in DC, please rank me #1. This is the campaign that's not taking billion-dollar backing. We're trying to make sure that we are responding to you, that we answer simple questions with simple answers, and that you don't need a legal degree to understand what we're saying. And I believe that's really important, and you should be able to check who's endorsing us and who's backing us. We're a homegrown DC first campaign, and I think that's really important for having true outcomes for DC residents. So again, look us up at vote4oye.com. I'm #5 on the ballot. Please rank me #1. Thank you.
Perfect. Oh yeah, I love it, man. Dwight, let's see here. Dwight Davis, coming over to you. Perfect.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you. All right, Dwight Davis, you are running for DC Council at Large.
Yes, sir.
You're going to speak out the district for us tonight. I think, you're the last person in DC,
Yes.
but not. You're doing a great race. I love you, brother. I know you're out there working strong. Why
Yes,
are
sir.
you running? Tell people about yourself.
Yes, sir. I think Jacques Patterson was on.
Oh,
Is-
Jacques on? I'm sorry, I missed Jacques. Okay.
Yeah, I just want it's some phenomenal brothers. And Brother Thompson, if I may, I just want to say thank you to all the brothers who are still on the call, to the brothers who were on the call. The conversation about mental health was so poignant and so important. I will also say that having served as a principal for many years in DC, I always had a therapist. And even on the campaign trail, my therapist has been critical to my mental health, because this is very difficult to put yourself out there. So I just want to thank you, and I would just want to lift up that message again and say that it is my belief that the seeds of divine possibility have been sowed into all of us, especially as Black men. And many of us are hearing the call to serve and to put ourselves out there. And you have to, take care of yourself. Find a reliable other to talk to, so that we can process a lot of stuff that we're dealing with. So thank you for bringing in that conversation. I'll be very quick. One of the hardest things I've ever had to do was to leave education. For over 22 years, I've served as an educator, as a principal here in DC. But there comes a time when you have to give more of yourself if you want a different result. And this year, working at a middle school in Ward 8, Kramer Middle School, I had a class of 8th graders who were reading at about 3rd grade level. I had sixth graders who did not understand the basic multiplication algorithm. And I thought about my children who live in Ward 5, who've had access to great schools. Um, they don't they don't have to deal with some of the disparities that other children have to go through, and that's not right. And if we want a future ready, if we want a strong DC, it is incumbent upon us and me as a black man to step up and put myself out there to champion the views and perspectives of those. One of my primary beliefs is that our children are our greatest economic engine. And if we want a future ready DC, if we want a future ready South Carolina, if we want a future ready city, state, we must invest in our youth. We must entrust our cities to the people who will build it, and that's the next generation. So I'm taking everything that I've learned about managing schools, about oversight, policy writing, managing huge budgets, and I'm bringing that to DC Council because I believe that a perspective that champions our seniors, a perspective that champions the importance of working with community-based organizations in the business sector and listening to our constituents, right? Listening to our consumers, which were for me were the students, always the students and the families. We listen to the people who are in the communities and we work together to find solutions. That is what a politician should be doing. That is how real change happens, because real change happens in from the people who are closest, right? One of the things I always say is the people who are closest to the problem are closest to the solution. And many times we have individuals who come in thinking they have all the ideas and they never listen to the people who have the solutions. So that's the type of leadership that I bring. That is the type of leadership that I feel like DC needs at this very important time, because the decisions that we make today will impact DC for the next 20 years. And we need strong leadership that understands change and how change works and is willing to work with the community. And that's all I have to say, Khalil. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them, and I will put my information in the chat.
Appreciate it. We always love a politician who loves brevity. I love it. Thank you, Dwight. Put your stuff in the chat. Oh, yeah, waiting for your stuff in the chat. And forgive me, I'm going to go to my fellow, I believe it's my chapter brother, Jacques Patterson. We're going to bring you up now. And then we are coming over to Maryland. Jacques, I just, oh, there you are. I was like, I know, I just saw you. Good brother, good to see you. You're running, and then you're running for DC Council at large, but it's a unique race. You're not running like the other brothers were just running. You're running to fill Kenyon's previous seat. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir. That is correct. And since you like brevity, you're going to like me a whole bunch there, because I'm going to, I'm not going to regurgitate any of the things that my brothers have already said. I know each and every one of them, and I know their heart and their spirit. I know whoever wins that particular race, and I'm hoping it's one of those brothers, that we're going to have a great council member, at-large council member on the Democratic side. But as you said, I'm running for the seat that Kenyon left to run for mayor. There's an unexpired amount of time, which is about 6 months at this point, that I would serve out. I would be sworn in immediately after we win, which I'm believing we're going to do. And then I would have to run for it again for the 4-year term, which I think will be successful as well. But real quick, Dr. Jacques Patterson. I live in Ward 8, for those people who know the District of Columbia, which is one of our most underserved and marginalized communities. I've lived there for over 30 years. I came here by way of military stationed at Andrews Air Force Base, and I was one of those things that few people ever talk about, but a single father with a 4-year-old daughter. And I moved into Ward 8 with my little girl, and the first thing that became very evident to me was the type of schools that we have and how they were servicing schools at that particular time. So I got very heavily involved in public schools and charter schools, and I've been working there for quite some time. Basically the whole time that I've done public office. I also served as a number of my other colleagues as an ANC advisory neighborhood commissioner. For those who know the District of Columbia, it's like our bench league. I'll explain it to you real quick. Our bench league of people who want to go on to serve office as a voluntary position. But I served 5 terms as that. And I got a lot of things done, even though it is not a paid position and it doesn't have a lot of authority. We got a lot of things done. We opened up the first grocery store in Ward 8. At the particular time when I moved in, we did not have a grocery store in a ward of 80,000 individuals. It is a food desert. And we made sure that happened. We opened up a lot of other recreational places just from that position. So then I ran for the State Board of Education a couple years ago. About 5 years ago was the first term. I got 83,000 votes in the at-large seat. And then I ran again a year ago in 2024, and I got 229,000 votes in that particular race. Citywide, just a lot of support. And so now I'm running for the at-large position. I am the only brother that's in that race, unlike the other race. I'm the only one that's in that race. I'm running against two other young ladies, a young lady named Donnie Crawford, who actually worked on Kenyon's staff and is in that interim period of time. So she's holding the seat right now, and she's also running. And then a young lady who's trying to come back, who was not good for the District of Columbia. I'm not going to go hard in the paint for her or anything like that, but I'm just going to say this is a lady who really denigrated and is disrespectful to the African American community. One thing that she did in our particular area alone in Ward 8 is that we were building a facility, an entertainment facility that actually is where the Mystics, our women's WNBA team, plays. And she actually took half of that funding. So it was supposed to be an arena that could hold basketball games, larger basketball games, and all the sporting events and concert stuff like that, and cut that funding in half and really economically just disenfranchised us to a certain extent. We still have things there, but it's not happening. But this person wants to come back, and she really has not really invested in our communities. But she wants to come back, and I'm trying to make sure that she does not. Because I believe that economic equity is the way that we're going to improve east of the river. Again, it's one of our most marginalized and underserved communities. And I want to leave brothers with this particular thing. I'm on the State Board of Education. I've been there. And one thing that I've been trying to improve, because I always hear about growth, or I hear the word growth, because growth makes everybody feel good in schools. It's something that you can talk, because it seems like it's something that's always going, but we never say the word proficiency. Right now, I'm going to give you some numbers real quick, and you guys can do the math. We have a 79% graduation rate. We have a 16% college and career ready percent. That is a 63% different. We're graduating students who are not ready for college or career, point blank. When you add the other 21% that's not even graduating from school, now you're at 84% of our students that come through DCPS, public or charter schools, are not ready for school. That is my number one issue, because that is a crisis. I know for me individually, coming from a household where my parents had a 6th and 8th grade education, college and education was everything for me. I now have a doctorate degree, but I knew that education was the way that I would get here and change my life and the life of my family. So I'm running because I want to make sure that we can fix our education system. Our education system here in the District of Columbia is majority Black, period. But the ones with the best figures are majority white. Whites make up 12% of our population in public schools at this particular time, but they represent over 90% of our graduation rate. So I'm looking to change that. I'm trying to make sure that there's equity in all areas, educationally and economically, for those who live in communities like mine. So we'd appreciate everybody. You know, if you want to donate, I'll put some information in there for you. And you can look at my website and everything like that. But appreciate you. And Khalil, I want to just thank you for having this space for us. We need this more than most people understand, for brothers to get together and actually talk about things that are on our minds and near and dear to us, and to talk about policies that affect us, because nobody else is making policy for us but us. So thank you for this time.
Of course, brother. I'll see you at chapter in
right.
September.
Yes.
But please put your stuff in the chat. Love you. Want to make sure this gets shared out. And we should put you as what on the ballot? Because ranked choice voting in DC. So what number we put you
You're
at?
ranking me number 1 on that ballot, just to make sure. And I appreciate you asking that question. We have ranked choice voting. Rank me number 1 on your ballot. Thank you.
There you go. Put your stuff in the chat. We are coming over to the great state of Maryland. We have, first up is Clint Spellman, who is running in Congressional District 2. Sorry, I'm trying to make sure I can track all the notes here. Then we're coming to Adrian Bawafo in CD5, Harry Dunn also in CD5, Walter Kirkland, and then Ellis Colvin, and then Will Juwando, who is running to be county executive of Montgomery County. Clint Spellman, come off mute.
All righty. Thank you for giving me this platform. This is my first time here. and I'm really enjoying myself. What I like to do is that the other brother said, for real change. That is exactly what my slogan is. For the people, for real change, and I mean that from my heart. The thing of it is that I'm kind of the baby in politics. I got into it in 2024 against Johnny Olinsky. I didn't win. Did some research, came back hard, and I am the only opponent for him this time, and I'm coming in hard. Now, this is not my first time going up against corporations. In 2009, I started a movement against AEX, a corporation that were not giving drivers fair wages. And that took about 3 to 4 years. But like I said, when you go up against the powerful, you better be ready to battle. And we did. Now, what I don't agree with what's happening in my district is that they're underserved. And first of all, is that I'm going to talk about the minimum wage. It's $15 an hour is not a livable wage for anyone in the state of Maryland or anywhere else. So what I'm doing is that I'm putting in a proposal for $23 an hour and 85 cents with a cost of living adjustment every 2 years for the next 10 years. Also, we can't talk about affordable housing until we talk about wages, because with inflation being at 2.4 on a track to 2.2 by 2030. The other politicians, what they want to do is raise it to $17.50. Now, in 2030, the value for $17.50 an hour is going to be $15.35. That's going backwards. I'm not going to do that. The thing of it is that what I want to do is put in real change, real growth. Also, what I'm doing is that I put together a program, and it's called Poverty to Profession. What this is going to do, it's going to take homeless people, underemployed people, excuse me, veterans, formerly incarcerated. Now, the thing of it is about the formerly incarcerated, it blew my mind, is that formerly incarcerated, their unemployment rate is 27%. The 27%, now back in 1939, during the Depression, for the entire nation, it was 25% for the whole nation. This is just for a marginalized group. Now we go to Black men, it's 50%. And you wonder why crime is so high. You wonder why. Okay, so that's another thing on my agenda. The other thing is universal health care. I'm getting so tired of seeing these trillion-dollar wars, all this money, and I don't call him the president. I call him the person who occupies the White House. All right, these trillions of dollars are going overseas to Israel and places like that, and not to here. We can afford affordable health care. It will cost $3 trillion. Now, with this man that came in with the idea is to steal tax dollars from us. Now, in his corporations and these billions and trillions of dollars, we can get our universal health care. The next thing is that this will not work unless that we stand up. Now, I know that protesting and things like that, it does work, but we have to start going fire with fire, okay? And what I'm going to propose is a bill, and that bill is going to be called, let me bring it up.
Now, as you do that, I know you're rounding that corner so we can get your stuff in the chat and make sure we can get folks to donate to your campaign.
I'm going to be real quick. It's called the Politician Corruption Accountability and Transparency Act. All right, and what this is going to do is hold all federal officials accountable, including the President, Supreme Court, and Congress. Bans corporate PAC money, ends insider trading in Congress, requires real-time transparency and political donations, protection of whistleblowers, establish citizens oversight panels, and things like that. Because the thing of it is that we have to get corruption out, because that's where we're at right now. And we're at the crossroads. And so at the crossroads now, do we want to go backwards or forward?
I say forward. And I know you're doing a great race over in CD2. And look, our goal is to highlight all the Black men that are running around the country, really focusing on statewide, but also U.S. House, U.S. Senate, any statewide officers, and sprinkling there some other brothers who we know who are running from very unique seats, like Will Jawanda, who we're going to come to in a little bit. How can we reach you and how can we support you?
Okay, you can reach me at www.citizensforclintspellmanjr.com. And if you're tired of the old status quo, vote for me.
Perfect. Well, make sure you put it in the chat. Adrian, you're up next. And
Will.
then Brother Harry Dunn, we're coming to you. Clint, thank you so much. We're going to have Marilyn back on next week. You brothers obviously are going to be up a little higher. And I think we got two special guests maybe joining us next Sunday. But Adrian, I'm coming over to you now. Let's see here. I'm going to do this. And then Harry, you were up, and we got a special question from John Johnson for Harry. But there he is, Adrian Bawafo. Glad we got the camera back on. Good to see you. I love all my candidates who are running in CD5 with a lot of love. That music in your ad, though, man, it was kind of smooth how you did that. I got to give you credit there.
Thank you, man. How you feeling?
I'm doing great. Tell us about yourself and the race that you're running. I think all of you are running to take over Steny Hoyer's old seat now that he's retired, correct?
I need to say, Khalil, thank you for even putting this together. And I think a lot of the comments I agree with earlier about the importance of Black men being in politics, especially in this time in history for us. But I'm Adrian Bawafo, for those who do not know me. I'm running for Congress here in Maryland's 5th Congressional District, which is Prince George's County, Southern Maryland. For those who are from the state, it's Prince George's County, Southern Anne Arundel, Charles, Calvert, St. Mary's, a very diverse and vibrant district. We jokingly on our campaign call it America in miniature, because you have a little bit of every single part of America in this district. I'm currently a state legislator representing the 23rd District, which is the Bowie up Marlboro area. And previous to that was the vice mayor of the city of Bowie. But I'll be really brief here. I think Maryland is setting the tone for Black leadership in the country. We've seen it with Westmore. We've seen it if you look at the legislature. The largest Black caucus in America sits right here in Maryland. The history of Black leadership really starts, especially at the federal level here, with the legends and the giants that we've had, like Elijah Cummings and Kwesi Mfume, and folks who have really been pillars for making sure that America can really move forward. But I tell folks, for the first time in American history, young people are worse off than they've ever been before. I'm 32 years old. I'm the youngest person in this congressional race. And what we're finding out is my generation is primed to be sicker, lonelier, and poorer than any other generation in American history. And frankly, we have a moral obligation to step up and pass the torch to a new generation of leadership. And so we're really excited about the momentum that we have here on the ground in Maryland. I've been fighting in the legislature to raise the minimum wage for the last 4 years. I've been fighting to take on Wall Street companies who have been trying to buy out single-family homes. And we've been fighting to make sure that utility bills are actually lowered, and that we hold the PSC here in Maryland accountable as well. And we're trying to bring that same energy to Washington, D.C., because we all see how congressional Republicans have straight up abdicated their responsibility to the American people. So Khalil, again, thank you for this. I'll end by saying this. A lot of people don't talk about Black men and mental health. And what I've been hearing in this community, in this district, we have 85,000 federal workers here in Maryland's 5th. And folks are truly affected by the economy and what Donald Trump and Elon Musk have done to the federal civil service workforce. And the reality is that there's so many voters who are just apathetic, who don't believe that there's anything going on, or that they cannot, or they should not participate in the political process. And I tell folks that's the wrong mentality to have. When your back is against the wall and things are tough, that's when we actually need to be in the fight. And so I say to anybody who's listening, especially brothers all across the country, this is the moment for us to step up. This is the moment where we got to be actively more engaged in the fight for democracy, and more importantly, for the fight to make sure that a generation of Black men aren't turned around and forgotten, but are actually uplifted by their government. So Khalil, appreciate you, my guy. And we have some amazing men running in this race, so shout out to all of them, and God bless y'all. Thank y'all for doing this.
And where can people find out more about you and support you?
In the chat as well, but adrianbawafo.com. You can volunteer, you can donate, help us out. We got early vote in 4 days, but we're feeling good and excited, but we need all the energy to run through the tape. So appreciate you.
Gotcha. Thank you, brother. And we're going to have Marilyn back on next week and the following week. I know the final week is Father's Day weekend. I think we're going to have a dynamic speaker on who's going to give us a little bit of more. We'll leave it that way next Sunday. But thank you, Adrian, being a true friend and being an amazing candidate who's running in a really great race. Really appreciate you being out there, brother. But we'll look for your stuff. I'll make sure it gets in the chat. And then we are going to come over. I like to call him the Centurion of the House, Harry Dunn. Bringing you back up, brother. There he is. Before I forget, we want to talk about your race. But John Johnson wanted to make sure I asked you, what do you see as the greatest challenge for you in winning this seat in Congress? He wanted to make sure I brought that question up. He asked it when you were on earlier. But tell us about you, why you're running, and what do you think is going to be great for you serving in Congress?
Well, thanks, Khalil, man. Always good to talk to you. And now I get to talk about myself a little bit. I struggle with that, man, because, you know, I to be very candid, man, I really wish that I didn't feel the need to have to run for Congress. I was a Capitol Police officer for almost 16 years, and I quit. I didn't retire. I quit. And you know the difference between retiring and resigning? It's a pension. So I stepped out on faith because I don't believe that we have we're not able to sit back and hope that everything gets all right, that everything turns out all right. You know, as you listen to this call, I'm just sitting here nodding in agreement with so many of the other brothers. We agree on so many issues. We all are the. But what's the point? It's not just about electing Democrats. You know, obviously we can have Republicans, whatever, black people, but we have to elect the right people for the right moment. And, you know, I want to shout out Adrian, shout out to, I see Walter Kirkland, Brother Colvin, shout out to these great brothers. We all agree on a lot of the same issues, and we all agree that they're very important. However, I don't believe that all of us understand the gravity of what's at stake right now. You know, I physically shed blood on the United Steps of the U.S. Capitol defending democracy. I, citizen, pissed off citizen, Harry Dunn, have 2 lawsuits against this administration. One, Harry Dunn versus Donald J. Trump, which actually stopped that $1.776 billion slush fund. It stopped. It's on hold now because of the work that I did as pissed off citizen, Harry Dunn. I have a lawsuit against the Department of Justice because they are failing to comply with the congressional law that honors the police officers from January 6th. You know, I ran before, and because there is still so much work that needs to be done. Obviously, the things that are near and dear to me are accountability and affordability. I don't have a desire to be in Congress for a long time, to be very candid with you. I'm not a career politician, but I believe everybody likes to use the term fighter. But what are we really fighting against? I think it's so important that we put people in there at the right time for the right moment. You know, I don't believe this world, this fight, the dynamics of the world are constantly changing. So I think it's so important that in each moment we put the best person forward. And respect to everybody in this chat and everybody in this race. I don't believe there's anybody more motivated, more qualified in this moment to step up and meet this fight. You know, it's personal to me. Donald Trump tried to kill me, plain and simple. You know, and so many of my friends, so many of my loved ones, my family are struggling with this administration just hammering us, the middle class, all these, they're spending on things that benefit the Republicans, that benefit rich people, that benefit loyalists to Donald Trump. And meanwhile, everybody else that's working their butts off to make it, we're out here struggling while trying to play by the rules and doing it right. And we're seeing this administration use the Constitution as a suggestion manual. So listen, a lot of us, like I said, we all agree on the same issues. But one of the things that I really want to touch on is that I spent over 15 years at the U.S. Capitol. I've seen people come into the Capitol, newly elected people, with the best of intentions. They go in there and they want to represent their communities. They want to stand up. They want to do what's right. I've seen Republicans do that too. But over time, it changes. You know, instead of those pictures that you take on the Capitol steps with, you know, the school districts and, you know, the Boy Scout troops and the Girl Scout troop that come to the Capitol to see their congressmen, those photo ops, they shift from students, from community members to lobbyists, to CEOs, to corporations. So they forget about the people that actually sent them there. And that's one of the things I won't do. I don't accept any corporate PAC money. And you know what? A lot of people talk about we need to get rid of, you know, corporate money and outside of politics. But one of the reasons why we're not able to, because some of our favorite politicians are recipients of it. So I think we need to be very crystal clear and very, you know, have our North Star facing forward about getting that out and facing the issues that the people want. The special interests that I care about are the people of the district, and that's what's most important to me. And to answer the question that the gentleman had, what's going to be my toughest? You repeat it.
What is your greatest challenge in winning a congressional seat?
I believe it's the money that's being spent in favor of another candidate. And Adrian, I love Adrian to death, but Adrian, has a lot of support in the state, and people are spending on his behalf, and a lot of it's corporate PAC money. Adrian's a great guy. I think he's great, but I don't believe that it's a representation of the people, where it's corporate PAC money that's spending in his favor. And I think it's overcoming that's going to be challenging. Like I said earlier, when I first talked with the congressman, Maryland would be lucky to have any of us here. Any of the people in this chat, right? The four that I see right now, I don't know who else is in there. We would be very grateful, lucky to have any of us represented. But the person for this moment is me. All due respect to everybody else. Love y'all to death, though.
But hey, I love as we got later in the evening, the brevity has picked up. We'll work on that for my fellow DC folks. Harry Dunn, Centurion of the Congress, please put your link in the chat so people can get in touch with you, donate or volunteer. We do that for every single candidate running. Thank you, brother, for being on. Thank you for joining us earlier and being a part of that conversation. Appreciate you. And I know your schedule's busy, so thank you for jumping in.
You got it, brother. Thank you. Thank you to all the brothers. Y'all be well, man. Good luck in all y'all races.
There you go. Walter Kirkland, we're coming up to you now, good sir. And then we're going to go to Ellis Colvin. There you go. All right. Put you up. All right. Look at that. Look at Sharp. Look at Sharp.
Oh, man. Come on now. Hey, Khalil, Nixon 4, man. I'm from Money Under Mount Vernon, man. Nixon 4.
Oh, okay. Okay. Look, I love
done.
I love the chat that I'm seeing going right now where it's my mayor is Muslim, my bagels are Jewish, Christian Dior, Nixon 4. I am, look, I'm a Wizard hometown boy. I remember when they were the Bullets, but happy to see what is happening here.
Yeah, it's going to be nice.
But let's talk about you. You are running in this race in the Congressional District 5 to be one of the next, to be the next congressman. Why you? Why your race? And tell us a little bit about you.
Well, Khalil, thank you for doing this. You got roughly 60 people on this call. It's so good to see brothers engage like this. I'm sure the white folks do this too. So thank you for your leadership to see this engagement. It's incredible. It's pretty amazing. But the reason why, and let me tell you who I am. I'm the founding president of the 100 Black Men. A lot of you probably heard of the 100 Black Men. There's 105 chapters across the world. I founded the one in Maryland. And we focus, Khalil, as you know, that's how I met you, with education, mentoring, health and wellness, and financial literacy. And the brother I was talking earlier, I forget the brother who was mentioning, our Black boys are struggling. From 8 to 29 has the highest suicide rate in the country. Our Black boys are isolated, they're frustrated, and they don't have any hope. Mr. Kirkland, I may not live past 25. These are people in Suitland, Maryland, as you know, Khalil, pretty well in that area. So we need somebody who's going to focus on assisting our youth. And what I'm going to run on is mental health. Mental health is a critical piece that hits whether you're 65 or whether you're 25. AI, workforce development, that's a critical piece with guardrails. It's not going to go away. So I would also support AI and workforce development. Also, I'm going to work on seniors. I'm actually a senior, Khalil, as you know. So we need, it is what it is. We need universal health care. I think another brother mentioned that earlier. You should not have these high stipends going in when you're sick. It prolongs life. But in this particular race, you have 23 other candidates, as Khalil knows. It's unbelievable. Firemen, delegates, police officers. But you need somebody who's been lifing forward. I have 30 years as a small business owner. I worked for Xerox for 10 years. I worked for Honeywell for another 10 years. I worked for GE Healthcare for 9 years. I'm a Hall of Fame track and field athlete. I've been really having a lot of different life experiences in terms of performance and close over roughly $50 million in sales and marketing the last several years. And I'm a small business owner. So what I want to do in this job is to take it from a realist kind of perspective. I'm not a career politician. I'm a regular guy, just like all the people on this call. And I want to respect everybody's time in this call. How am I going to know what I'm going to do until I get in there? You can propose all the things you want to do, but you need a fighter. You need a person who's been in meetings, in these appropriation meetings, in these infrastructure meetings, whatever committee they put me on, Khalil, you got to be able to work down the middle. You need a person who's been in the boardroom, who's worked in the middle. And I can do that. With utility costs going up, grocery bills going up, suicide rate at a very high rate, you need a real person who understands from all different nationalities. And that's what I represent. And this is, brothers, this is a very significant race. A lot of you know Steny Hoyer. Steny Hoyer did a good job. He even can do the wobble, believe it or not. The dance is called the wobble. He can do the wobble. But he was there for 44 years. 44 years, brothers. So now he was a senior majority leader. This is a very significant race. All of us want to kind of win this race. But you need to understand this is the 250th anniversary of our country. I would be honored to be in this position. And I'm converting Republicans over to Democrats. I'm the only person that's grassroots, going to festivals, going to gay parades, going to regular parades, going to seminars in this field that's taking people that's saying, you know what, Walter, we need a guy like that who has a community engagement. Policies and procedures I can learn. I'm an educated guy. But I think you need somebody who has the business savvy in the community side, who's been life in Khalil, who's been failing forward, as Denzel Washington says from my hometown, that I think I can make a difference. And I think getting back to the AI, this is critical. I've been approached by Van Jones from CNN to do some pop-ups to start in Prince George's County to do AI training. Now, what that means is we start in Prince George's in Maryland, brothers, and take it across the country. You need somebody who's going to embrace technology. I think, Khalil, the DC area should be the hub, the technology hub of the East Coast. Just like in California and Silicon Valley, why not have it in Prince George's County or Charles County? And for your brothers on the call, Charles County now is the most affluent county in the country. It used to be Prince George's County. So why not have that type of infrastructure and technology? I would push that. So I'm not going to prolong my overview. I want to respect people's time. And much to what Dunn said, I respect all the candidates, but I also think it's unfair that PAC money is being thrown around. I also think this situation about all this dark money is unfair. I'm purely a grassroots campaign person who I've been actually raising my own money. And I think when you're trying to be realistic in this world, you got to go back to grassroots. When you have people buying you, I don't think that's right. And this is a very significant role. So, brothers, I appreciate you. And Khalil, thanks again for this involvement. Let's see what happens here. We got a lot of candidates. They're all good candidates. But I think based on my lifetime, my experience, I'm the right person for this particular job. You can go to walterkirklandforcongress.com. I put that in the chat. walterkirklandforcongress.com. Nix in 4.
I love it. I love it. All right. I copied your link back over there for you, for everybody. Walter, thank you. Thank you for the amazing work that you're doing in the community. I think this is going to be a dynamic race to see who wins.
Yes.
Appreciate you, brother. We got 2 more candidates. You got Chris Mosley for Nixon 4. Man, this is a great series. And that last game was amazing.
Oh,
Good
yeah.
luck to you on the trail, brother.
Thank you, man. Thanks for all your advice.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Ellis Colvin, we're going to bring you up, and then we are going to close out with my good brother who's been with me for a while. I appreciate him holding down as the anchor of this race. But Ellis Colvin, we are going to I think I can bring you up right now. Okay, cool. Add the spotlight. There you go. Perfect.
Brother Khalil, thank you. And
course.
brothers on this call, I'm encouraged by everything I've heard tonight. And it's important that our voices are heard on social media, but definitely in the mainstream media as well. Because in the last 30, 40 years, there's been a concerted effort to silence us as Black men in America. And so let's make sure that we understand that and that we take the microphone, if you will. Listen, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I spent 21 years in the United States Army, active duty Army, 19 years in the federal government. I believe that experience matters in this race. I'm also a small business owner, and I own a company called the Major Capabilities Alliance. As the chairman and founder of that, an S&T enterprise, if you will. I'll talk to you about that in a second. Also, a company called Coliseum Enterprise LLC, a cybersecurity company. And I mentioned those because they fit very nicely within the platform that I have. I'll talk about. But the most important thing that I want to leave with you is I am the day one candidate for Congress. Day one in the sense that if you're talking House Armed Services Committee, then I just told you I have 21 years of active duty military service. I understand the use of the military arm of the government. Also, the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. That 19 years alone in the federal civil service was with the National Geospatial Agency, was with the Office of Director of National Intelligence, was as an activity within the CIA. And so no one knows intelligence better and the use of that and understanding what threats we face as a nation, what are real and what are not real. Iran was not real. Venezuela was not real. Okay, you know, you have to understand the history behind threats, if you will, and I understand them well. The other most important committee of Congress that I'm ready on day one is the Congressional Appropriations Committee. I participated in the Congressional Budget Justification process. I am a Army trained and a federal trained comptroller and financial manager. I've spent time, as much as I've spent in intelligence, I've done that discipline as well. What else? In terms of education, I want to point out I have a PhD in cybersecurity. I have a JD, if you will. I have 3 master's degrees. I've been about preparing myself for this opportunity. And so let's talk in terms of our platform here. And there are 3 things that I want to emphasize. That is economic equality, criminal justice reform, and education. I'll take them in those orders. We're in a cost of living emergency, as you all know. And no one understands what a cost of living emergency is like than a person who grew up with working class roots. That is, in a household of 12 people for 18 years, 12 people in a household for 18 years, 2 adults, 10 children, and with an annual household income of $10,000 a year. You do the math. That's less than $1,000 a person. No health care, no dental care, just minimal subsistence. And so fighting through all of that, that's where I come from. And I don't want a world like that going forward for anybody. I understand where we're going in terms of the poverty that is being inflicted, but let's stop it right here at the water's edge. And the way I'm going about it is that I've spent, even before this election, I've spent time in Taiwan, and I have been working on delivering over $100 billion of foreign direct investments here in the state of Maryland, working with the Department of Commerce, if you will, and bringing newer and better industries to the state. That is in semiconductor manufacturing, humanoid robotics production, and industrial AI. And so I don't want to tinker around the edges in terms of, you know, jobs that are minimum wages. I don't want minimum wage jobs. I want 50,000 jobs that are paying $65 an hour, because you can't make it on minimum wage of any kind here in the DC market. And so let's change that paradigm, number one. In terms of criminal justice and policing, I'm focused on both the Department of Defense and specifically on ICE and CBP. Number one, for law enforcement as a whole in this country, it is time that we have a uniform code of law enforcement like you have as the UCMJ in the military, that we don't need to wait for courts to decide the guilt of officers. They should be held accountable and brought to justice, and they should serve time for their infractions. My focus on ICE is also economic in terms of subordinating it to the Coast Guard. If we say that the border is secure, then the border belongs to the Coast Guard. That's the business that they've been in. And so subordinate them as well as CBP and take away that $70 billion plus up that Congress just voted for them for the next 3 years, and take away their annual appropriations as well. Also, in terms of the education, this is one of the areas that I want to spend some time on the most. You know, our HBCUs are under attack by the Department of Education. I just spent an entire afternoon last Thursday with a 160-year-old HBCU that is suffering from a 30% drop in its enrollment because the Department of Education is cutting funding for federal student loans. And as a consequence, this university is going to have and has begun laying off, and the number at the start here, 79 faculty and staff. And they're $18 million in debt. And let me just say, you know, this education piece hits me very hard. And that is why when I talk about the degrees that I had to do those because I had to make up for what my family did not get. My great-grandparents only had a third grade education. My grandparents only had an 8th grade education. My parents never got a diploma from high school. They ended at the 11th grade. And when we talk about turning back the clock, we have, between the Supreme Court and this administration, the clock is turning back, has turned back. No more Brown versus Board of Education. No more affirmative action. We're turning back the clock 140, 160 years before we ever had our crown jewel institutions. And if we're not careful, you'll see we're going to turn back to a time when the court says no more Dred Scott. And well, yes, they'll affirm Dred Scott. And, you know, we'll have a time in which we're not going to be focused on having due process in this country. It'll be a question of, okay, let's overturn the slavery. Let's overturn equal protection under the law. Because if they think that they can do what they have done just by mere legislation or a court decision, then we need to understand what we're up against, and we need to draw a bright red line. And so that's why I am in this race to be the one to step on those landmines and to deal with the difficult issues that we're facing. And I'll pause there.
No, I appreciate it. And so where can we find ways to support you? Can you put your link in the chat so that
yes,
you just did it.
I did that. It's
you
vote.
beat me to it. Okay.
I have
Okay.
VoteCalvinForCongress.com.
Okay.
And I'll lead with you tonight. Why am I the best candidate in this race? Because I am born to lead, trained to fight, and I'm committed to serve. Thank you, brothers. Nice to meet you all.
Perfect. Thank you, Brother Colvin. Appreciate you joining. I know there's a lot of great brothers that are running in the Maryland's 5th Congressional District. I know Will Jawando, I think he just got a call, so we may not be able to have him join us. But our wives went to Hampton together, and so we have been, and we also used to play basketball against each other in high school. So we go way back, but excited for his race. I am not sure. I think he might still be on that call. But anyway, brothers, as we are closing out tonight, I want to say thank you to each and every one. I know this was a longer night, especially with a lot of our candidates. I appreciate all of those that are still with us on the Zoom and are still watching online and still being able to participate in this conversation. Really appreciate each and every one of you being here. Now, there is only one way that we'll be able to get to do this work on a consistent basis. We need each and every one of you to show up and be a part of this work. Our state captains who are on the ground, who are doing this consistently, we need you to make sure that we can continue to fund them and the work that we're doing. So we're asking everybody, we know campaigns are running and folks are doing their thing. We're going to put it in the chat here. If you have the opportunity to support the work that we're doing, please go to womenblackmen.org, click that donate button. We just put the link in the chat for you. We really appreciate it. I am not sure if Will's going to be able. I think he just took another call to get back on. That's okay. We got 2 more weeks to highlight our candidates who are running in Maryland. And I appreciate all the brothers, not just our Maryland, our DC, South Carolina, Arkansas, Georgia, every single candidate that we had on tonight to speak about their race. The importance is that we are bringing these Black men who have stood up in their communities to run for office to you. As I said, we are live on our YouTube channel. Please share it with folks. Get that Tuesday resource email. We have hit that 10 o'clock mark. So I'm going to let everybody go. I know Will be back with us next week. We're excited. We'll be announcing a special guest probably Tuesday of this coming week. So bring 2 or 3 of your friends to next week's call. We love to pack it out. But again, as we always do, we appreciate every single brother who's on. Appreciate the conversation this evening. Thanks, everybody.